You're listening to Premier League Live. I'm your host, Russell Hargreaves. Coming up, full coverage of Brighton versus Newcastle. Plus, we'll reflect on a really exciting day in the Premier League so far. Man City hit 5 against Fulham. Spurs hit 5 at Burnley. Forest win at Chelsea. What a game. And a couple of really ding-dong draws. Sheffield Everton, Brentford Bournemouth. We'll review all of that in a couple of moments' time. But kicking off in 25 minutes, it is Brighton versus Newcastle. The Amex alongside the excellent David Connolly with the one and only Tom Rennie.
Well, thank you, Russell Hargreaves. What a game you've just called, and what a game we've got coming up for you to wrap up our Saturday of coverage. Brighton and Hove Albion drawn in European football for the first time this week in the Europa against Newcastle United back in the Champions League following last season for the first time in 20 years. So last season, lots to write home about. This season, less so. In fact, both teams are coming off the back of defeats last weekend. For Brighton, beaten at the Amex by West Ham United, who went into today top of the table, whereas Newcastle struggled to defeat at home against 10-man Liverpool at St James's Park. From the defeat to West Ham, Brighton Hove Albion make 3 changes. Adam Webster, James Milner and Danny Welbeck all drop out. Joel Veltman, Van Hecke and João Pedro come into the team. It's Bart Verbruggen in goal, back 4 of Estupinian, Lewis Dunk, Van Hecke and Joel Veltman. Billy Gilmore, Pascal Gross in midfield. 3 behind the striker Evan Ferguson. That trio, Kaoru Mitoma, João Pedro and Solly Marge. As for Newcastle United, just the one change enforced due to injury to Sven Botman. So Matt Targett comes in. Dan Burn, bought from Brighton, comes in central defence. So Nick Pope in goal, Matt Targett, Dan Burn, Fabian Schär and the captain Kieran Trippier. The midfield 3 of Sandro Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton. And up front, it's Miguel Almiron, Anthony Gordon and Alexander Isak. It's a big game at the top of the table, at least if this was last season. It's Brighton against Newcastle United from the Amex. It's up next. Back to you, Russ.
Thank you very much, Tom Rennie. Alongside me is still Kev Watson. Kev, your thoughts on those teams and how this one might pan out?
Difficult one, because Brighton really enjoy watching them play. They're off the back of that defeat to West Ham, who went there and, I didn't see that coming, but played really, really well and beat them. Newcastle off the back of the defeat to Liverpool, which didn't see coming. They were in cruise control, and then all of a sudden when they conceded the goal, the equaliser, they're going, whoa, what do we do now? And they end up losing the game.
Nunez gets his tail up.
I fancy Newcastle today. I look at both these teams and they're both exciting teams to watch. They've got good individuals, but they both play as a team. I think Newcastle can go there and get a positive result. I really do.
And you look at, Barnes on the bench, Wilson. There's some good players there, aren't there, that could maybe stretch Tyre and do a job.
I was just thinking that looking at both those benches, yes, Brighton have the quality on the bench, but as you say, Barnes, Wilson, Anderson, who I really enjoy watching.
He's got in Scotland squad now, hasn't he, as well?
Yeah, exactly right. So these guys can come on and make a difference, absolutely.
All right, OK, so that will come with our fab team of Tom and Dave, but let's quickly run through all the goals. I mean, all of them as they threw in from the 3 o'clocks. Premier League Live.
You are listening to Talksport's coverage of Brighton and Hove Albion against Newcastle United from the Amex Stadium. I'm your host, Tom Rennie. Alongside me for this one is the former West Ham United, Wolverhampton Wanderers and Republic of Ireland striker David Connolly. This is Premier League Live. Brighton is a club abuzz this week, having been drawn in their first ever European campaign with Ajax, Marseille and AEK Athens. The Seagulls' Europa League adventure is reward for their adventurous, offensive and thrilling football of recent seasons, but the reality check of last week's loss to West Ham United will have concerned manager Roberto De Zerbi. Newcastle United are in Europe themselves, back in the Champions League after 20 years away. They face Paris Saint-Germain, Borussia Dortmund and AC Milan in an incredibly tough draw. The message from Eddie Howe and the thousands of delirious Geordie fans who follow them week in, week out around the country: bring it on. Newcastle are also smarting after a loss themselves to 10-man Liverpool last weekend, so 3 points here, just as important to them as the home team to quell any early season doubts. To the team news, starting with Brighton and Hove Albion. Danny Welbeck has a muscular issue, so is not in the team today. He drops out of the squad entirely. That one of 3 changes from the West Ham defeat. He out for João Pedro. Also Webster and Milner dropping to the bench, replaced by Van Hecke and Joel Veltman in the team. So it's Bart Verbruggen, who made his first start last weekend, continuing in goal. Across the back four, left to right, is Pervis Estupiñán, Lewis Dunk, Jan-Paul Van Hecke and Joel Veltman. Billy Gilmore, Pascal Gross in central midfield, Karol Mitoma, João Pedro, Solly March supporting Evan Ferguson, who starts up front. As for Newcastle United, one change from last weekend enforced from that match against Liverpool. Sven Botman picked up an injury in that game and came off and has not been adjudged fit enough to make the matchday squad today. Matt Targett comes in for him, which means Dan Burn, once off Brighton, goes into the back four. So it's Nick Pope in goal, back four of Matt Targett, Dan Burn, Fabian Schär and Kieran Trippier the captain. In midfield it's Sandro Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton, and up front, right to left, Miguel Almiron, Alexander Isak and Anthony Gordon. Harvey Barnes and Callum Wilson amongst the substitutes today. Alongside me for this game is Mr. David Connolly. How are you, mate? You all right?
I'm very good. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing very well, and you know what? I'm very excited once again that Brighton and Hove Albion are the late game on a Premier League Saturday, because there's so many goals in their games. A 4-1 victory, a 4-1 victory, a 3-1 loss. Thrilling for us. I wonder how happy Roberto De Zerbi is with that.
I don't think he's very happy at the minute, to be honest. I guess the manner of the defeat against West Ham would probably concern him, because I think going into this season they won so many plaudits last season. I'm a huge fan of how they play football, very tactical, very ball dominant, especially centre of the pitch. Everything's very well thought out, but you would say David Moyes outthought him last week, and they set up so well, West Ham, just enticing that ball down through the middle, intercepting it and countering against them. Now it's a bit of a different challenge today against sort of Newcastle, possess different types of players, and probably the season they're having, Newcastle, they'll want a response as well. So both of these teams are wounded a little bit, and they'll be both trying to get 3 points, because it's obviously so competitive, the league. I have seen Brighton quite a few times late Saturday evening. They often seem to play at a late Saturday evening. Don't know why. Last season they did quite a few times, and they always impress me. I'm sure they're looking to bounce back. He has made a couple of changes, and I think Roberto De Zerbi is not afraid, in terms of making tough calls, tough decisions. Yeah. So I know Welbeck might have been out, but he's dropped out Adam Webster, who made a couple of mistakes last week. Yeah, he's brought back in Joel Veltman, so he's freshened it up a little bit, and I'm sure he's hoping for a response. João Pedro obviously starts as well. They have had an issue with that number 10 position. They've had 3 different players in that number 10. They've obviously had Enciso, they've had João Pedro, they had Danny Welbeck, and so it's still he's still evolving this side, isn't he, in terms of getting the right players in the right positions.
You mentioned the way that West Ham played last week and the blueprint set for teams who want to take on Brighton and Hove Albion. You could say Everton last season here, with that big victory they picked up at the back end of the campaign, might well be a similar thing. Can Newcastle play like that? Will they set up like that? Is that what you'd advise Eddie Howe's team to do today?
Well, I mean, whoever comes up against Brighton, they're going to have less of the ball, that's for sure, predominantly. I mean, for Newcastle, you would say when they had the man extra last week, they were against a really good team, but they didn't make the most of that. Really struggled to carve out clear-cut opportunities. Probably Alexander Isak was the quietest I've ever seen him, really, against top centre halves, and I'm sure he'll want a bit of sparkle back in him today, because he is so important for them. They didn't have him fit last season for the whole season, and started like a house on fire. Last week maybe was an anomaly. They can sort of write that one off a little bit against the Liverpool side, who made a couple of changes and they're really strong towards the end. But I got a feeling this Newcastle team are going to go really close again. I do. I think they're a really, really good team, built from the back. There wasn't a lot in the Liverpool game, there wasn't a lot in the Man City game, and they started off superbly well against a terrific Aston Villa side.
They did, but on the break those goals came, whereas when they've been asked to break a team down, I know very good teams, they have struggled a little bit, haven't they, this year?
Yeah, I mean,
that new midfield struggling a touch.
Yeah, I guess it's he is trying to. Eddie very rarely is a revolution, it's an evolution. So Tonali's come in and he started, and obviously that's an evolvement of him. Bruno Guimaraes as well. You wouldn't say those two are particularly combative, for example. They're not dogged, they're not like a Ward-Prowse or a Souček or whatever, like for a West Ham or an Alvarez. So they're different sorts of players, aren't they? They don't have that. You wouldn't say they don't have quite that.
Where's
destroyer.
Your fighter? Where's your destroyer?
Yeah. Exactly.
Where's Vinnie Jones when you need him?
Exactly.
Yeah. Should we give them the managers? I think we probably should. We're building up to kick-off. People want to hear from them. We've been speaking about them. Roberto De Zerbi is the manager of Brighton and Hove Albion. His counterpart is Eddie Howe. Here they are.
We lost Enciso, and we needed one big player. We are lucky because we have a lot of young players, and it will be a one responsibility more, no? Because if you work with this talent, you have much responsibility, because it's a football heritage, and we can make mistake with this player, because football needs this talent, and you have to manage it in different way.
The mentality for us, I think it doesn't matter who we play, there has to be a sort of an attitude of no fear, no doubts, that let's embrace everything that's going to bring, and it will challenge us hugely. Those teams have played in Europe for many years, and they've excelled. So yeah, no doubts about the size of the challenge, but yeah, bring it on. You know, that has to be how we feel, and that's what I encourage my players to think, and I think it's exciting. We have the enthusiasm. The first time Brighton can play the Europe League, you can imagine what will be our attitude, behavior and passion to make points and to qualify for the next step. There's a lot of talk about the Champions League, but it sort of wasn't, not real, but we didn't know who we were playing, we didn't know what group we're in, and so there's a lot of unknowns. Now there's sort of, we have a target in mind, we have the games in mind, and that starts to then bring you to visualise it really, and I think that can only be a healthy thing. But for us, and I'm going to sort of dampen it down, but the Premier League is huge for us, and we still have games before the Champions League starts, so the Champions League really only come into my focus when it's our next game. For me now it's all about Brighton, and then of course Brentford.
Well, Eddie Howe might only be thinking of the Champions League when those games come around, but you can bet those Newcastle United fans who have been dreaming about returning to European football's top table for the best part of 2 decades will be thinking about it every single day. There will not be a flight out of Newcastle to any of those European locations, I'm sure, and yet many fans will indeed travel. Paris in the Champions League. What a return that'll be for Newcastle United, and what a story as well for Brighton and Hove Albion in the Europa League this season, thanks to their fantastic campaign last time out under both Graham Potter, it must be said, and the current boss Roberto De Zerbi. They have never been in European football before, so what an achievement that is, and what a distraction it might be as well. Going to be tough to manage for Roberto De Zerbi this campaign, as is the forthcoming 90 minutes here on Premier League Live between two of the most exciting teams currently playing in English football. It's Brighton and Hove Albion against Newcastle United. Kick-off is next. You are listening to Premier League Live. You are listening to Talksport's coverage of Brighton and Hove Albion against Newcastle United from the Amex Stadium. I'm your host Tom Rennie. Alongside me for this one is the former West Ham United, Wolverhampton Wanderers, Leicester City and Republic of Ireland striker David Connolly. This is Premier League Live. Brighton suffered their first defeat of the season last weekend despite having 81% possession in their 3-1 loss to West Ham United. That may well have perplexed manager Roberto De Zerbi, whose thrilling attacking style has been rewarded with European football for the first time in the Seagulls' history and usually delivers Premier League results. Another loss today, another home loss to boot, and the excitement of that Europa League draw might need to be pushed to the back burner for a while. Newcastle United are also celebrating their European return this week with a Champions League group which includes Paris Saint-Germain. The Premier League, however, has thrown up back-to-back losses against Manchester City and Liverpool, sure, but if you want to compete at the level Newcastle's owners want, those are the teams you need to beat, as are, in fact, Brighton and Hove Albion. Team news starting with the Seagulls. It's Bart Verbruggen in goal. Back four, left to right, at Purvis Estupinian, Lewis Dunk, Jan-Paul Van Hecke and Joel Veltman. Van Hecke and Veltman in today for Webster and Milner. Midfield is Billy Gilmore and Pascal Gross. Three behind the striker, Kaoru Mitoma, João Pedro and Solly Marge. Pedro in for Danny Welbeck, who doesn't make the matchday squad. Evan Ferguson is the central striker. On the bench is Jason Steele, Tarek Lamptey, Igor Julio, Adam Webster, James Milner, Mahmoud Dahoud, Adam Lallana, Simon Adingra and Facundo Buenanotte. As for Newcastle, they make one change from the loss against Liverpool last week. Matt Targett comes in for the injured Sven Botman, so it's Nick Pope in goal. Matt Targett on the left with Dan Burn going central defence alongside Fabian Schär. Kieran Trippier, the captain, on the right. Sandro Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton in the central midfield positions. And up front, Miguel Almiron, Alexander Isak and Anthony Gordon. On the bench, Martin Dubravka, Jamal Lascelles, Callum Wilson, Harvey Barnes, Lewis Hall, recent signing from Chelsea, Tino Livramento, Jacob Murphy, Elliot Anderson and Sean Longstaff. Our referee today is Stuart Atwell. Craig Pawson is the fourth official. Darren Bond is the dreaded VAR. And we are about to get underway on the south coast in Falmer, just over the road from Sussex University. Some would say England's finest university, where if you get a degree, I think you are in many ways regarded as some of Britain's finest minds.
Don't tell me that's where you went, Tom.
It was indeed. We're only a few feet away from the Great East Slope, where 2007 was a wild time for everybody. Let's get to it. We are underway here with Brighton Hove Albion in their home strip of white and blue striped shirts, blue shorts and blue socks. They kick from right to left as we are looking in this first period. It's the opposite way to that they usually kick towards in the first half. I think Newcastle must have won the toss and spun the two teams around. Newcastle United in green shirts, white shorts and white socks. They kick from left to right as we are looking in this first period. David Connolly, Newcastle deciding to switch the ends around there at the toss. That's somewhat rare.
Yeah, that is. I mean, just looking at the kick-off, they got the ball, went back, ended up at their goalkeeper, Brighton, and he nearly kicked it straight to Newcastle. So he has made a few changes, hasn't he, in terms of in goal. Sanchez gone, Steele came in, now Verbruggen, and they're in.
There's a chance here already for Isak. Isak's in, Isak's through, and Isak could not get the shot away. Van Hecke went to ground and put a late challenge in. I think the offside flag has belatedly gone up. Isak can't believe it. We can't believe he hasn't scored, and ask questions later.
Yeah, I mean, brilliant ball, just spun round the corner. He's bearing down on goal. Terrific tackle, you've got to say, from Van Hecke. He went to ground. He knew he had to get a block in. He does just that. I mean, to me, it looked like a corner.
Forgive me, I think that's the reason that Isak was screaming as opposed to the flag going up for offside. It was the flag going up for goal kick when he thought it was a corner. 90 seconds gone, first big chance of the game going the way of Newcastle United and Alexander Isak, and the chance goes a-begging. Brighton maybe have been unsettled here by playing at the wrong end. Yeah, they have. I mean, I noticed this in a few of their other games as well. They go back to their goalkeeper so often, and that is just encouraging Newcastle to go and press high. And they had a good chance. They've kicked it out of play again. This time Estupiñán. So sort of few ruffled feathers, I think, for Brighton. Maybe that performance at West Ham has just upset a few. Yes, it looks that way at the moment. Brighton just not getting to grips with the early moments of this game, and Newcastle very much the team in the ascendancy right now. 2 minutes gone, they have the ball on the halfway line with Cher. What they have as well, Tom, just on Newcastle, is as they spin another ball up top without Callum Wilson. Isak, he's so quick. Tonali, lovely close control, right hand side of midfield, midway inside Brighton territory, finds Almiron. Trippier outside, return first time to Almiron. Not easy for him to deal with, but he has still nutmegged Estupiñán on the end line. Can't then retrieve the ball, so Brighton will find a way to clear it. Well, it's only gone as far as Tonali, who's in the area here. Tonali cuts it back, and Isak has missed another one. Well, we're 3 minutes in, and Isak should have two. Yeah, they're just... Newcastle are hunting down Brighton really well. Estupiñán trying to clear his line, being clever. Tonali cuts it out. Terrific cutback, because he knows Isak's on a penalty spot, and really he's got to really wrap his foot around this to find him. He does just that. We're talking about wrapping your foot around it. Isak can't quite do the same. Bobbles it into the ground, and it's, well, by his standards, it's a disappointing finish, to be honest. Well, that is superb from Sandro Tonali, who scored his first Newcastle goal in the opening 6 minutes of debut against Aston Villa, and nearly assisted in 3 minutes there. The finish from Alexander Isak simply not good enough there for Newcastle United. Brighton at the other end looking long. Solly March goes to ground. Free kick is given by the referee. It's about 10 yards over the halfway line, centre of the field. Nothing too controversial, though Solly March isn't happy with the challenge on him from former teammate Dan Burn. Well, it's a clear block from Dan Burn. He knows exactly what he's doing, and prior to that there was another block. Fabian Schär just put his arm right across the neck of João Pedro. That could have been a booking too. I mean, I know they like the dark arts a little bit, Newcastle. No further punishment from the referee Stuart Atwell. Free kick in the centre, aimed towards the back post. Back header from Isak, and volley clear by Newcastle. Almiron up to Tonali, well read and well won by a combination of Gilmour, Estupiñán and Van Hecke. Now long towards Mitoma. A degree in dribbling, but That was an F grade there, won by Trippier, and Newcastle clear it.
Yeah, but what Trippier did really well is he just didn't allow Matoma to get any sort of space between him and the ball. Got really, really tight, got close, and just didn't allow Matoma to take him on. That's really good defending from Trippier. Who would have done his homework, how to play against Matoma? If you back off him, he will keep carrying that ball, and he's so good with both feet.
Van Hecke outright. Down the line, Solly March finds Pascal Gross, level with the penalty area, right-hand side. Solly March! Oh, the shot just flies over the crossbar from the long-time Brighton servant. Just chopped in field, it opened for him. And why not? In the form Solly March is it?
Yeah, he went for power. Normally from that sort of side, right-hand side of the box, you've got a couple of options, right, when you're cutting in. You either bend it, or you go with a bit of pace and power and you drill it. He went for the drill, couldn't quite keep it under the bar, though.
Terrific start to this game.
Yeah, very open, isn't it?
3 goals in 3 in the Premier League this season so far for Solly March, off the back of his best ever goal-scoring season, the top flight last campaign. So that's where the confidence comes from. The player who might have felt an England call-up was going to be forthcoming, but instead they picked Harry Maguire and Calvin Phillips. But let's not bring that up. Well, that's a poor back pass from Kieran Trippier, who is in the England squad. Straight to Evan Ferguson. Chance here for March again. Penalty area. Finds Ferguson when I think maybe he was trying to poke to Mitoma. Newcastle just smuggled the ball away over on this left-hand side. And from early Newcastle pressure, suddenly 6 minutes in, 0-0, it's all Brighton Hove Albion.
Yeah, there's a few errors on both teams, I guess. Unforced, you would say. Kieran Trippier that time with a poor pass to his teammate. I mean, maybe Evan Ferguson could have just picked out João Pedro there rather than what he did choose. But it's a really good start here. Very open game, end to end.
Gross outright, driving forward. Solly March in the area. Goal side of Target, looks to cut it back. That's blocked by the sliding challenge with Matt Target in for the injured Sven Botman today. And it's out for a corner kick, right-hand side, Brighton.
Yeah, it's a foot race here, and decent turn of pace here from Solly March. Gets in behind Target.
Cross comes in, header towards goal, but rather floated and spun towards it from João Pedro as opposed to anything particularly threatening on Nick Pope's goal. That's a goal kick for Newcastle.
Well, I mean, it is a bit of a challenge, I think, if you're Brighton, because I mean they've got some big players. Don't get me wrong, but Newcastle are big as well. How you go about trying to get the first contact on a set piece. That time they went direct into the box. João Pedro, not the biggest, but he can leap, he can jump well.
He was Watford's top goal scorer last season in the Championship, 11 goals in 35 appearances. That the best goal scoring season of his career when he was in the Premier League with Watford. Spent most of the time injured, so we haven't really seen a great deal of him at this level. Battle on the far side there from the goal kick. Dan Burn wrestling Ferguson to the ground, then poke forward to Isak, who's running at Dunk. Dunk just smuggles the ball away, and Van Hecke helps, and Brighton will clear it. Another strong challenge from Dan Burn on Evan Ferguson. Both players loving that physical battle. Ferguson goes down, free kick Brighton's way.
Yeah, just trying to stop it at source. But what they are doing, Brighton, is they're trying to restart the game really quickly with a good high tempo. I mean, contrast Newcastle, they had a goal kick. Unlike Brighton, they don't play out from the back. They kick it long, play for second balls and play from there. Whereas Brighton, completely different sort of style. Goalkeeper gets it, build from the back, and that's how they do things on goal kicks.
And there's certainly more variety when it comes to Newcastle United. Patterns of play, but so difficult to deal with the whole Brighton swarm that they're trying to do now as well. Pedro running at Kieran Trippier, the Newcastle captain. In fact, it's come off Kieran Trippier last in the right back area. And it's a Brighton throw about 12 yards away from the attacking left corner flag.
Yeah, great intensity from both teams. You can see without the ball, Brighton hunting it down. That was Mitoma, and then Evan Ferguson just prior to that as well.
Here's Lewis Dunk across the halfway line, finding Van Hecke. And down the right channel, he will find a ball to Solly March. Return to Van Hecke, who comes in to replace Webster today. Dutch central defender, signed from Breda a couple of years ago now. Not made too many Premier League starts. Got defending to do here with Bruno Guimaraes has won it back for Newcastle. Cross is blocked by the retreating Billy Gilmore. And here it goes, Kaoru Mitoma. Running at Trippier, running at Tonali, beating them both and still driving forward into the centre circle, leaves it for Pascal Gross. Finds a ball down the line here to Solly March, then return to the central midfield positions. Gilmore across the halfway line left to Pervis Estupiñán. Really interesting how far Joel Veltman and Solly March are pushing down the right hand side even in this opening 10 minutes. We're nearly at 10 minutes gone, in fact. It's 0-0 between Brighton and Newcastle United. Van Hecke into the feet of Ferguson, who controls and finds a pass back instead of maybe turning and bringing Brighton forward. Crossfield in the air towards Mitoma, intercepted by Trippier. Newcastle retake again. Back to Pope, then to Trippier. Mitoma pressing. Trippier not panicking, flipping to Isak. That's won by Dunk. On to João Pedro from Estupinian. Left-hand side, Mitoma's cross. That is blocked. No handball. Back to Mitoma. Into Gilmour. Gilmour square. Over to the right-hand side. Veltman to Solly March, who's pulled out on the right-hand side. Running at target, dropping the shoulder, taking him outside. Cross comes in. Oh, and Nick Pope somehow... I think maybe that might have hit the post. We don't have a great view of it from our angle, but it's certainly gone behind. It came off target. I thought Pope fumbled, but on the replay here it might have been the post. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, it looked like it was just about to creep in at the near, so he did well in the end, Nick Pope. Maybe the little deflection from his teammate just confused him a little bit. As it is, they got another set piece, Brighton.
Yeah, certainly confused me from the angle we saw it from. It is a corner on the attacking right-hand side. March's delivery, Dunk's header, cushions it back. Estupinian strike. It hits the backside of Byrne on its way through.
Does it? I'm not sure.
Well, I thought it did.
Yeah, I think it's just... I mean, if you're going to head the ball back to Estupiñán, where does he want it? He wants it on his left foot, not his right. I mean, it looked like he could barely kick the ball with his right foot there, so...
Oh, yeah, I thought really that hit down Byrne, but it's shanked so far wide. It's gone straight for a goal kick, which is already taken by Newcastle. Of course it is, with the way this game has gone. Into touch, aimed towards Isak, throwing Brighton on the halfway line. And breathe, I guess. Yeah,
well, maybe that's what Roberto De Zerbi's just screaming to his team there, just to take a breather and settle down. You know, if you are going to work on those set pieces, as I touched on when they got the first one against Newcastle, how do you combat their height? Well, they went big there. They bypassed everyone, went to the back post. If you're going to be clever and hit it back to the edge of the box, that's where you want. If it is Enciso, put it on his left foot. Don't put it on his right.
Brighton Hove Albion coming again down the right-hand side. Strong challenge from Target on March, who didn't quite have that ball under control.
It's a good battle, though. You touched on it earlier, you know, in terms of Solly March and Mitoma out wide. Those two up against Trippier and Target. Good little battles.
Very, very good game to this point by two of the most fun teams to watch in the Premier League across the last 12 months or so. But Verbruggen gives it a wallop upfield. Bit of variety there from Brighton. Target wins it back from March. Joe Linton has tackled Target, his teammate, has been able to come away with the ball. There's a Bruno Guimaraes, who hasn't seen much of it so far, the playmaker for Newcastle in that central position. He is now found by Tonali, still inside their own half here, Newcastle. Bruno Guimaraes' forward pass was loose, straight to Van Hecke, and Brighton retake possession. At the 13-minute mark, possession 70-30 in Brighton's favour, which is what Newcastle would have planned for, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, I wonder how many of those passes have been from their defenders back to their goalkeeper, because they're in their own box now and they've probably played 6 or 7 passes, you know, before eventually getting the ball out down this left-hand side now. And they might go back again. Here they go, back to the goalkeeper again, then they build.
13 minutes gone, 0-0. Possession heavily in Brighton's favour. Jean-Paul Van Hecke on it as he carries up towards the halfway. Looks to slip the ball to number 9, João Pedro. Good control and a pass out right to March. Gross ahead of him. Back to João Pedro. Square to Gilmour. 40 yards from goal. Right of centre. Now left to Estupinian. Here's Mitoma, who wants to take on Trippier again. Almiron back doubling up well. Gilmour slips one in. Chance here for Ferguson, who's done well. Gets the shot away too. Diving challenge from Byrne. On target the shot, but no power to beat Pope.
Yeah, but nonetheless, great movement. Straight pass, diagonal run. The pass that's straight is from Gilmour. The diagonal run is from Ferguson. From right to left, it is on his left foot. It lacks power, but you know the set-up play was superb and a terrific bit of movement.
First shot on target of the game goes the way of Evan Ferguson. 3 goals in his last 6 Premier League appearances. 3 starts in that run. Already 6 caps for the Republic of Ireland. 2 goals scored. 1 against the Rockers of Gibraltar. Does that count? Probably. "14 minutes gone. Brighton 0, Newcastle 0. Do let us know your hopes and dreams for Evan Ferguson. Our listeners in Ireland, many people certainly hoping to have another Robbie Keane player on their hands, a talismanic figure that the Irish have certainly been missing for some time up there. Since you, really? Yeah? Can you have that?
Well, certainly since Robbie, yeah. I mean, I think he's terrific, Evan. He's only going to get better under De Zerbi.
Paid a pittance to Bohemians to get him. Once again, it's credit and kudos to the Brighton team, who just always seem to be a few steps ahead when it comes to bringing in the next hot talent from European and world football. Pascal Gross, long-time servant, dispossessed there by Anthony Gordon. In the centre circle, Joe Linton helps it to Almiron. Almiron finds Joe Linton, then back to Kieran Trippier on the halfway line. Forward to Joe Linton, bit loose, won by Gilmour. Retrieved though by Cher, and then outright to Tonali. Tries a first-time pass to Almiron. Back to him, then back to Almiron in the penalty area. Drops the head and drives towards goal, and that's hit Lewis Dunk and was going in, and that's a brilliant stop low by Verbruggen. Just tips it round the post for a corner.
Yeah, I mean, this starts with Evan Ferguson losing possession, to be honest, and then they get the ball back, Newcastle. You back off and back off. Well, you know, you're in trouble against Almiron. Carries it in the box, goes down the line onto his right, but he looks to maybe square that across the box to Isak. Takes a little deflection, and the goalkeeper reacted well.
15 minutes play. Corner on the right-hand side to Newcastle United. Their first of the match. As David Conley has said, tall team, but a low corner comes in, intercepted by March, and now they can drive forward here, and there's absolutely no one near Estupinian. Helps it left to Mitoma, who's running at Anthony Gordon, filling in at fullback. Mitoma still going. Penalty area, takes a shot, blocked by Trippier, who came a long way back to get that block. Then it ricochets off Mitoma through to Nick Pope.
Yeah, they just tried a little clever corner there, Newcastle, that was cut out by Brighton. Then they flood forward. I mean, Mitoma's waiting for Solly March, but he's not quite there. It's a long way to make up to get on the overlap. Eventually cuts in field, he's crowded out. But again, it just shows you a very open game. You know, I'll be amazed if this ends up 0-0.
Tremendously enjoyable game of football so far here on Premier League Live, as the day has been terrific. Goals all over the country. We'll get considered reports from our team across the nation at half-time. Goals all over the place. Shock defeats as well. Here's João Pedro with a brilliant driving run. He's fallen over in the penalty area. Looks like he's handballed that accidentally. Brighton claiming penalty. I'm not sure there was too much in that. We play on here with Bruno Guimaraes and Estupinian battling for the ball. Another shout of handball, again not given. This time it's broken to Anthony Gordon. Newcastle somehow has smuggled this all the way to Isak, who's running a dunk in the area. Alexander Isak still going, cuts it back. Anyone there? No!
Why didn't he go for goal?
It opened up so beautifully to strike a goal. He cuts it back, and there's nobody in a green shirt within 30 yards of it.
Oh, goodness me, that was superb. I tell you what, referee, credit to him. A couple of great advances there from Stuart Atwell, but once it falls to Isak down the right-hand side of the box, 1v1 against Dunk, you know he is far too quick for him. Knocked it past him, faked to shoot, Dunk went to ground. You think, go on then, just smash this in the bottom corner. I think we've seen Mikel Antonio do that a couple of times, haven't we? Right foot, right hand side of the box, just lace it low. Instead, he tries to cut it back. Nobody there.
Antonio did exactly that at this stadium at that end last weekend. Isak tried to do just a touch too much, and we are still at 0-0. Solly March over on the far side for Brighton and Hove Albion into Veltman. Slight miscontrol, but he is able to help it back under pressure to Van Hecke. Then Gilmour. Then João Pedro, lovely control on the half turn, Maddison-esque, and finds Mitoma, who tries to spin one towards the corner. Blocked again by Kieran Trippier. It's out of play for a corner kick on the left-hand side for Brighton.
Yeah, great turn, really good turn from João Pedro. It's his chance again from Alexander Isak. Lovely little deft, sort of fake to shoot, sucks in Lewis Dunk, goes to ground. But I know the angles are cute there, Tom, but to me, you just got to let fly. And he had Gordon piling at the back post anyway if the keeper saved it. Coming back to Brighton, Mitoma, we know he plays off the left, right foot, always cuts in field. He's got to mix his game up. Kieran Trippier has done a job on him so far. He's read everything that he's going to do.
Corner kick on the attacking left-hand side for Brighton. Lewis Dunk forward, peeling towards the back post. Gross's delivery towards him. It's won by Dunk. It's looping. It's away by Byrne. March controls it in the penalty area. Gross now has it onto Solly March. Left-footed cross, deep again. Dunk stays forward. It's too deep even for him. Dunk will just keep this in on the sideline right-hand side. Comes it back to Veltman, and he will then find Pascal Gross. Dunk is still down the line here. Going to be held up by Joel Veltman instead, while Brighton just reorganise themselves. Just under 20 minutes gone. Brighton Hove Albion 0, Newcastle United 0 on Premier League Live. Gilmour round the corner. Joe Linton read it well. Newcastle looking to spring with Bruno Guimaraes down the line to Isak, who's goal side of Van Hecker. He's on the ball now from the left. Chops away from one, then two. But running away from goal, not towards it. So Linton finds Bruno. Bruno left to Anthony Gordon.
He's so quick though, Tom. I mean, you know, that pass looked under hit, to be honest, but he made up about 4 yards on Van Hecker, so that is a threat that Newcastle possess, and Brighton have got to be so careful with their defensive line. If it's too high, as we've seen early doors, ball spin round the top, he's in, and he is so quick, you're not going to catch him.
That is the threat of Newcastle United, with Harvey Barnes to come on later as well, but we know that Brighton are going to play high, they are going to leave gaps, exploited so well by West Ham last week. Have you seen any change to the tactical setup from Brighton at all?
No, I haven't.
Are you surprised by that, considering they got caught so many times?
Yeah, I mean, you know, just on the turnover, they might have looked at one or two things in terms of keeping enough players back, which they have done, but it doesn't matter who you keep back against Isak. You know, he's going to be quicker than 90% of the defenders in the league, and he's certainly quicker than Van Hecker and Dunk.
Here is Jan-Paul Van Hecker. He'll find Evan Ferguson, centre circle, lovely control and help on towards March, who's running field diagonal. He'll now find Mitoma, penalty area, left-hand side, cuts it back, and no one's there. Tonali will get the ball away. Another cut back to nowhere. This time it's Brighton guilty of it. Here's Mitoma again for Brighton Hove Albion. Gilmour helps it back to Lewis Dunk. Brighton have scored in their last 19 Premier League matches, the longest current scoring streak of any top-flight club, yet to score today, but as the history tells you there, they are more than likely to do so in any given game, any given moment. 7 attempts already at goal in this match, 2 on target. Pascal Gross approaching the offensive third from the right. He'll find Solly March. March back to Veltman, right side line, return ball to March, up against Target and Gordon. Good doubling again from Newcastle's winger and fullback. Target's on his backside and March is running at him, beats him once but not the second time there, and then March in frustration with an evident foul on Target. Free kick Newcastle United.
Yeah, I mean, as we touched on earlier as well, another good little battle. This time Target just about comes out on top.
Matt Target in the team today in the absence of Sven Botman, who's been a virtual ever-present for the last year. Dan Burn playing in his position. Must have been a bit frustrating for Matt Target, who essentially came here for more minutes and more football, leaving Villa. Yeah,
that's right, and I think to be honest, I think he's going to find it hard to get a regular spot. They've got Livramento coming in, Lewis Hall there as well, so maybe they felt Lewis Hall hadn't quite had enough minutes in his belt, maybe in his tank. So
in his career,
in his career, exactly.
That's a strong challenge there from Anthony Gordon. Referee not happy there with Gordon. Van Hecker has gone down. Just wandering over Stuart Atwell for more of a think about this. I wonder if a yellow card might be forthcoming. Van Hecker continues to roll and scream and pour salt all over the goose, and Anthony Gordon finds himself the first man yellow carded today.
Well, he had cleared the ball, Van Hecker, and he was a little bit late, stood on his foot there, Anthony Gordon. I think he did that. Which game did he do that as well? I know he sort of was walking a thin line in one of the games recently.
Well, he's been a yellow carded in 3 of the 4 Premier League games this season, so take your pick, really.
Yeah, there you go.
Liverpool was a similar booking. Combative player, Anthony Gordon.
Yeah, he's got that little bit of needle about him, a bit of nastiness, I guess, but he's just got to be careful. You know, especially as a winger, you think, well, okay, if it's not going your day and you're going to be frustrated, you're going to kick your fullback or whatever, we're going to be down to 10.
Making his 50th start of his Premier League career today, Anthony Gordon, once of Everton, brought in for £45 million back in January to Newcastle United, getting his first real run in the team. But it's Brighton coming forward here as we get near 25 minutes gone. We're at 24, it's goalless here on Premier League Live. Dunk with the pass back again to their goalkeeper from the halfway line.
Yeah, they do like to do this, you know, in terms of it's very, very structured, very structured. all the patterns of play, and if in doubt, go back to your goalkeeper, build again.
And they are dominating possession in this match. A slight dip from our earlier check on it, but 67% is still substantial. Long ball here to Solly March, left to right. He's offside. Around about 12 yards on the end line, similar to the side. And the first real puff of the cheeks from anyone here in the Amex Stadium. High velocity, high intensity game to this point. And Newcastle, I think, will be reasonably happy to have got 25 in.
Yeah, they will. I guess if you're Brighton, there's new relationships. You can see players, sort of Billy Gilmour just saying to João Pedro, I'll just spin that ball around the corner to you, and it's not quite working for them at the minute.
Long ball here to Gordon, who's turned away from Gross and Van Hecke. Down the left side, into the feet of Bruno Guimaraes, then outside to Joe Linton. Then Bruno again. Tonali makes a diagonal run, and it's gone back towards the halfway instead. It's Cher forward. Trippier on the right, up against Mitoma. Then back to Cher. Right of centre, chips it long, run by Joe Linton, trademark from him. Veltman and Van Hecke very nearly getting each other's way there. Veltman gets it away, and it's gone back to the goalkeeper, but it's a trademark run there from Joe Linton for the ball over the top.
Yeah, brilliant ball from Fabian Cher. You would say maybe Joe Linton's just got to take that on his chest and then bang it a little bit quicker, be decisive, and he wasn't. Didn't really have time to take that down. Too many players close to him. You've got to pop it off his chest and get your shot off.
And the example there of how Joe Linton has become one of the best midfielders in the league and was never quite the centre forward he was brought in to be.
Well, what you would say though, Newcastle again with a longer pass have got him behind that Brighton backline. Now Eddie Howe leaves no stone unturned. Him, Jason Tyndall worked really hard in the lower divisions. They would have known where the weakness lies for Brighton.
Bad clearance from Pope. Chance here for Estupinian, who's got away from Trippier. Estupinian to Mitoma. Mitoma's in. Great save by Pope. With the left boot, it's creeping in the bottom corner. Chance for Gilmour, that's on target. Chance for Ferguson, that's in the back of the net. Well, Pope made a couple of mistakes in there. He nearly redeemed himself with a save, then another. But just when he finally needed some luck, Evan Ferguson was sniffing, and Evan Ferguson was scoring. It's 1-0.
Well, we've seen the best and the worst of Nick Pope here. He almost redeemed himself because he came out to clear the danger. It's a terrible kick. He's outside his box, down the right-hand side. He could have given it to Trippier. Instead, gives it straight to Enciso. He could have shot. Instead, fake the shoot, cut the ball down to Mitoma. He then sort of cross-come shot, kicked away from Nick Pope. Dreadful clearance from Tonali. Fantastic hit from about 25 yards from Billy Gilmour. Pope can't really handle it. Too hot to handle. Spills, goes back towards the 6-yard box. There's Evan Ferguson. Reacts really quickly, first time finish in the back of the net.
And it's now 4 goals in 7 Premier League games for the precocious talent of Evan Ferguson. Second in the Premier League this season, and it's a classic striker's finish. It's being the most alert player in the penalty area for a knockdown. It's exactly what you want from your number 9.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Brighton lead. And now Newcastle United need to recover from that position.
Well, and Gareth Southgate will be saying, well, that's why he's not in the England squad. Because he can have moments of brilliance, but he can also have moments of madness.
But his number 1 is Jordan Pickford, so does that work? I don't know. Here's Anthony Gordon on the edge of the penalty area. Joe Linton tries to pass it in the bottom corner. Decent connection, decent effort, but off target.
Yeah, he was unlucky. Gets a round of applause from Newcastle fans. Good footwork initially, the approach play. Gordon's got the overlap at target, cuts in field. Squares it to Joe Linton, super little touch to take him inside Billy Gilmour and try to roll it into the near post, just half a yard past it.
Breathless and brilliant to this point. Brighton 1, Newcastle United 0 on Premier League Live. Newcastle having the better of the early moments. The longer the game has gone on, Brighton have been stronger, and here is Evan Ferguson, stronger there than Byrne. Slips in Mitoma, onto João Pedro, who hits it over the top from just inside the penalty area. It opened up beautifully for Watford's top goal scorer last season, but that simply wasn't good enough.
I tell you what, Tom, this could have been the goal of the season. This starts with a goal kick, and who takes it? Billy Gilmour takes this goal kick, gives it to his goalkeeper. They then play it into the middle of the park. Fantastic one-touch football, and then they're away into Evan Ferguson, spins it round the corner. You think, go on then, Mitoma's in, it's slightly behind him. He feeds João Pedro. João Pedro's probably got 3 options here, and to be honest, he probably chooses the wrong one, and that is to shoot. He's got an overlap on the left, he's got Solly March on the right. either of them have got a simple 6-yard finish.
Newcastle might just need to hold on here for a few minutes. Up to 30. 1-0 to Brighton. Break in play because Joe Linton has gone down. Van Hecke's challenge saw a head collision there, and Joe Linton has stayed down, so the referee has stopped it out of an abundance of caution for that head injury, which is only right in the current environment. That does give me a moment just to remind our listeners of tomorrow on Premier League Live. Not for those in Ireland, unfortunately, but for everyone else. 2 feature games before an international break, unfortunately. It's Liverpool against Aston Villa early tomorrow. Rich Wolfenden and the Housewives' favourite Paul Mortimer. That's followed by Arsenal against Manchester United. James Field and Chris Perry, your commentary team for that one. Robert Duckmore will bring you Crystal Palace against Wolverhampton Wanderers. That for our online and digital partners. Elsewhere today, Sheffield United 2, Everton 2. Same scoreline, Brentford against Bournemouth. Burnley 2, Tottenham 5 to break the pattern. Chelsea 0, Nottingham Forest 1. Man City 5-1 winners against Fulham last night. West Ham United 2-1 winners at Luton Town. That's the story of it so far. Game week 4 in this Premier League season. We're back underway. Joe Linton's all right. Ball back with Verbruggen in goal for Brighton, who goes long. Dan Burns headed the ball backwards there. He thinks he was pushed by Solly March, and the referee agrees with him.
Well, one thing we'd say with Dan Burn, he's been very aggressive with all his challenges. So whenever the ball's gone to Evan Ferguson or whoever, he's been right up their backside trying to win it. Now, if you don't, it means you're really vulnerable, because he can turn, but he can't turn the quickest, and it means he's so high, he's out of the game, and it's just a bit of a risky game, bit of a gamble.
Well, used to playing at fullback these days. Dan Burn certainly was a central defender more often than not during his 80-plus games for Brighton Hove Albion across a 4-year period. Having an uncomfortable return to his former club today as Newcastle win the ball upfield here. Oh, the referee says foul. Joe Linton on Billy Gilmore. The Scottish international, a very, very lucky boy. And we play on. Long to João Pedro, who finds Mitoma in the penalty area again. Nudging forward, shooting. That's blocked. Every time he's done the same thing, and he's been well shielded there by the Newcastle defence.
Well, in terms of Brighton's defence, whenever they've won a free kick, as we said earlier, they've spotted it and they've played really, really quickly. They're certainly laying down a marker here in terms of their intensity of play. Can you cope with this, Newcastle? Because we're the home team and we're going to try and set the tone, set the standard, and move it as quickly as we can, and just play with pure intensity, and they've done that so well.
And they're leading by a goal to 0. Thanks to Evan Ferguson, second of this Premier League season. Crossfield to March, who wins the first header. Byrne wins the second. Gilmore beats Bruno Guimaraes to the next loose ball, and Pascal Gross can carry it right to left. He'll find Mitoma, turns on, looks to slip in Estupinian. That's good play by Almiron, helping out his fullback and carrying Newcastle upfield a bit, but not too far. Held up well by Mitoma. And it's on to, or back to Trippier, who gives it a clip down the line. Up towards Tonali, intercepted by Van Hecke. Throw in that goes Newcastle's way. Tonali has taken it, and Isak is running at Lewis Dunk, who's on his backside here, thanks to Isak's turn. And it's outright to Tonali. Bit of space. Estupinian nowhere to be seen. No, cross comes in right across the 6-yard box. No one there to turn it home. Recovered by Target over on the left. Here's Bruno Guimaraes, left of centre. Nudging towards the penalty area. Gross for company. Turner pace, running in field. Wants a release ball. Wants somewhere to go. In towards Tonali. Nibbled by Estupinian. No foul given. Recovered by Cher. Then Almiron. Challenged by Estupinian and Gilmore. And they can break here, Brighton, with João Pedro. Held up by Tonali. Return to Solly March, and Brighton back in comfortable possession with their defensive four. A couple of moments there for Newcastle, David Connolly, but just couldn't get the striker's finish on the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the cross that came in from Tonali just has slightly too much pace on it. A yard or two ahead of Anthony Gordon.
Dunk forward on the floor, challenged by Cher. Brighton may have wanted to play on. Ferguson, the man who's gone down, dropping inside his own half.
I have to say, I think Brighton are playing Newcastle, and they are playing a team that they hope play this way. Because what Newcastle are doing is going to press high, going to play in the sort of Brighton box, go and press and all over the pitch, and it means there's so much space everywhere, and Brighton are so good at playing out in those tight areas. They're much better than anyone else. So to me, it seems like this is the ideal opponent if they're going to play like this. I thought Newcastle would sit off, be a bit more pragmatic. Instead, to be honest, it looks like they've opened themselves up a little bit too much. Although they have created chances themselves.
Yeah, maybe could have been 2 up in the first 3 or 4 minutes. Newcastle United finding themselves 1-0 down at 35. Certainly not following the David Moyes blueprint of last week.
No, that's for sure. And when you asked that at the start, you're not quite sure how Newcastle are going to set up to play Brighton. But they have gone, you know what, boom, we fancy ourselves with our players we've got in the front part of the pitch, we'll go and hunt it down and win it high up. The risk is then, the pitch is so spread, and if Dan Burn is playing high, there's a lot of grass in behind, and it's working in their favour at the minute, Brighton.
The only teams to win here in recent times, Fulham, Everton and West Ham United, all followed a very similar blueprint. Smash and grab for Fulham, big victories for Everton and West Ham. Newcastle not following that, doing their own thing. At the moment, they're on their way to a 3rd straight Premier League defeat. Took 24 games last season for a pair of defeats, already at that position. Beautiful touch by Mitoma. Sideline, takes on Trippier, finds Estupiñán in the area, cuts it back again. And it's a Newcastle body that picks it up. Bruno Guimaraes. Joe Linton. Bruno carrying Newcastle forward. Gordon wants out on the left-hand side, making a couple of runs, but Bruno can't find it. Still going here, challenged by Gilmour. In the end, he leaves it for former Milan midfielder Sandro Tonali. On the halfway line, Trippier. Newcastle just slowing things down. Tonali, Isak's run, looks to slip him in, finds him well. Goal side of Dunk, in the area, Alexander Isak. Where's the ball, where's the release? It's back to Tonali. Tonali to Almiron. Almiron left-footed cross, deep ball, chance here for Joe Linton. It's just over his head. Sat up nicely for him, but Veltman just got his body in a position that Joe Linton wanted to get into, and in the end it's off those blonde highlights and into touch.
Yeah, patient play, wasn't it, from Newcastle? Again, Tonali spins the ball down the line, and there's Isak in behind. He is so quick, he's always going to get there first. Now, look, Brighton have got the goal kick. This is how they got their goal, really. Gilmour takes it, gives it to his goalkeeper, and then they build. Newcastle are coming out, and look at the spaces now, and they're away.
Press doesn't work on Brighton, it would seem, and there's a chance here over the top towards... Well, if it was towards Mitoma, there would have been a chance. It went towards João Pedro, and it found Nick Pope, who... lucky there to knock the ball back into his own penalty area. I'm not sure that's exactly what he intended, but he can then pick it up.
Yeah, what they are, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, Newcastle, because they've got their front part of the team pressing high, but they've still got their defence really, really deep. So there's a huge sort of chasm in the middle of the pitch, and there's so much space for Brighton to play in. I mean, normally if you go and press high, your defence is up high on the halfway line as well, and you're nice and compact. But Newcastle are not.
Lots to ponder for Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall, the management team at Newcastle United, who took over a club bottom of the Premier League, struggling to stay in the division, and took them to the Champions League. Beloved on Tyneside, Eddie Howe, if not warmly welcomed on arrival.
Well, I did read somewhere today, someone saying, well, I'll tell you what, if Newcastle lose, is Eddie Howe in trouble? It won't be long before those sorts of conversations start coming in, even if they are narrow defeats, just because of the nature of the game and the ownership structure.
Yeah, can't afford to lose too many if you're owned by the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, that is for sure. Over on the left-hand side, they are coming forward, Newcastle. Cross by Gordon over the head of Joe Linton. Nearly fell to Almiron. Mitoma nicks it off him. End line left-hand side. Mitoma left-footed, clips it clear. João Pedro heads on, but it's straight to Fabian Schär, who had stepped up this time to press for Newcastle United. Here's Trippier, right-hand side, 40 yards from goal, into Bruno, loads of space, finds Tonali in the area. Tonali challenged by Estupiñán, breaks here to Isak, shot comes in, blocked by Van Hecke. Here's Tonali, challenges Estupiñán. That goes a long way clear up to the halfway line. Well, Nick Pope has come a long way to get Newcastle moving again. Here's Trippier on the right-hand side, 10 over the halfway, into Tonali. Estupiñán making sure Tonali knew he was there. Certainly loves getting stuck in, another former Watford player. And I just wonder whether the referee might be considering a warning for Pervis Estupiñán.
Well, it's a straight pass into Tonali. He can see Estupiñán coming. He just hacks it in from behind. It is a foul. I mean, there's a couple of games I've seen Estupiñán. I know he's really highly regarded, but had a couple of indifferent performances that I've seen live, and that's sort of been the case here today.
So nice getting stuck in. He's the fullback for Brighton Hove Albion. Certainly made that slot his own. Free kick from the right-hand side, which should be a fancies here. Some way from goal, about 10 from the right sideline. Trippier's delivery towards Byrne, but even Dan Byrne is not that tall. It's an easy grab for Verbruggen in goal for Brighton.
Yeah, he just got the delivery trajectory wrong there, Trippier, because it was such a high line from Brighton, and there's a lot of area just to play the ball into. Too close to the keeper.
Verbruggen puts the ball down, then passes left to Lewis Dunk. Once again, they look for the ball to feet of João Pedro. Cher holding Pedro, and that's a foul that goes the way of Brighton Hove Albion. Cher is trying to push up, isn't he? Trying to do, what you were saying, get everyone going on no one.
But then what the issue is, they've got Solly March and Matoma who are really high and staying high. So you've got your fullbacks quite deep, and you've got one centre-half high, one off. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag, and they haven't had much success with that ball in the feet Newcastle. They haven't won it very often.
For 40 minutes, it's 1-0 to Brighton Hove Albion. Evan Ferguson with it on 27 minutes. Long ball here to Mitoma. Trippier then jumped to ground. Referee has given the free kick Newcastle's way. Mitoma not one to complain too much about these things, but I wonder if he might have done. Well, I felt it at least.
Well, the Brighton fans are complaining. They feel that the free kick isn't being taken from where it should. He's just moved it 5 or so yards, Fabian Cher.
Well, they're probably right, but they're still 80 from goal,
yeah,
so
that's true.
Don't worry too much. Bruno helps it left to Target. You've got Gordon down the line, and he finds him and then receives it again. Possession 62-38 in favour of Brighton Hove Albion. 11 attempts from the home team, 4 on target, 1 in the back of the net. Newcastle 4 attempts, but nothing to trouble the goalkeeper so far. And their chances were certainly very good. They missed the target with all of them. Trippier finds Bruno well inside their own half. Newcastle right to Tonali, round the corner to Joe Linton, straight to Estupinian.
He's looked a little bit leggy for me, Tonali, today. Sometimes that can happen. You move over, you've heard deadline day, where you live in, might be in a hotel, he's in a house, is his family over, acclimatising, etc. And he's just looked a little bit a yard off the pace here today, Tonali.
Yeah, tend to agree. They do have options on the bench. Newcastle, you won't be surprised to hear. Someone like Sean Longstaff might feel a touch aggrieved to have been dropped down to the subs bench, having played so much football last season. It's good play by Verbruggen and Estupinian to go long and then get to the halfway line, where Trippier has challenged Mitoma again. Has broken to Billy Gilmore on the halfway line for Brighton. Newcastle looking to chase and hassle and harry, and Billy Gilmore ain't having any of that, and he turns away from the tackle. João Pedro helps it round the corner. Cher's challenge, and I think that might be one too many for Fabian Cher, and he joins Anthony Gordon in the referee's notebook. Yellow card.
And this is where they've played it pretty well, Brighton, in terms of trying to suck the centre halves out by coming short. The forwards, João Pedro and Evan Ferguson. This time it's Pedro gets there first. He's so sharp, isn't he, João Pedro? Nicks it round the corner from Fabian Cher. He takes him out. And they are sort of walking that tightrope, aren't they? Him and Dan Byrne. They've been on the border a couple of times.
He's the man pressing high, Fabian Cher, more often than not on João Pedro.
Well, that sort of number 10 position, as we touched on at the start, they've had 4 players in it this season, in their sort of 4-2-3-1. That number 10, someone's got to nail it down. And João Pedro's got it today just off the front, and he's played pretty well so far.
Free kick just left of centre, about 50 yards from goal. 45, long to march, won by Gordon, corner Brighton, over on the far side. I feel they've mixed up a bit, Brighton, today, as opposed to last week. There wasn't a great deal of that aerial diagonal against West Ham.
Yeah, West Ham. They're quite big though, West Ham, aren't they?
Yeah, maybe don't try it against Kurt Zouma, but then they've got Dan Byrne, I suppose. At the moment, it's Brighton on top. It's Brighton getting it right, and it's Brighton winning the game as we head towards the final minute of normal time at the end of the first half. 1-0 at the moment. Corner kick, right-hand side. Second goal, and that might be that. Delivery comes in, won by Dunk, decent header, good connection, but off target from the long-serving Brighton captain.
Yeah, he's not happy with himself. He's just giving himself a little punch in the face there. He's saying, come on, you can do better than that. He's not happy. I mean, there's a bit of sort of wrestling there in the box. They go man to man. Newcastle got the contact on it, couldn't quite keep it down.
I think he's right, Lewis Dunk. He certainly can do better than that. Scored many a goal in the Premier League. Brighton pressing high again here. They've won it with Gross, who's beaten Bruno. Joe Linton snaps back with a good challenge. A bit risky, but I think he has won the ball well there, Joe Linton. Newcastle look to counter. Here's Tonali, caught by Gross. Does smuggle the ball brilliantly back to Bruno Guimaraes. He's calling for a runner here, but there's no one far side. He's pointing, he's gesticulating, and in the end he's poking it back to Cher. Byrne being chased down by Ferguson. Target being pressed by March. Newcastle working out of that situation with Joe Linton. Then Almiron runs right to left, and he'll put his head down and drive forward in characteristic style. He'll find Gordon, corner of the area on the left. Back to Tonali. Run being made by Isak, headed away by Lewis Dunk. Down but not particularly far away. Trippier will let it go out over the sideline for a Newcastle throw. Taken quickly into Bruno. And Bruno Guimaraes will knock it back to Fabian Cher over the halfway line, right hand side. 45 minutes are up here. Just the 2 will be added on. We usually get the stupid numbers in the second half. Just the 2 in the first. Here is Fabian Cher. In diagonal, in the air towards Gordon, who lets it bounce and does just keep it in on the sideline. Veltman tried to nick it. Gordon rid the challenge, but then his touch infield was awful, and it's been won back by Gross, who got caught late there by Gordon. He's got to be a bit careful, Anthony Gordon.
Yeah, again though, every time he's got it, Anthony Gordon, he's coming field. He's a little bit like Matoma in that regard. Playing off the left, but he's a right footer. He just needs to mix his game up and go down the line sometimes.
Newcastle ending the half strongly. Joelinton's forward ball intercepted by Gross, wins it back again, intercepted by Gross, and then Byrne will clear it down the line. He's then been challenged by Joe Linton.
Well, Joe Linton, but he's saying today, Joe Linton is facing his goalkeeper. Dan Byrne's coming, and Joe Linton is screaming to him, I've got this, lead this, I'm going to play it back to a goalkeeper. And Dan Byrne is just there going, no, I'm going to clear this ball. And he's just sort of crashed into him, and Joe Linton's saying, oh, come on, what are you doing?
Well, Byrne might have been a bit disturbed by the fact Joe Linton just passed directly to the midriff of Pascal Gross twice. I might think, well, I'll have a go at doing a pass.
Well, maybe.
And there's a foul by Joe Linton as well, which has been given by the referee around the halfway line. David Connolly approaching the half-time whistle now. Your assessment of the first 45?
Well, I think it's been really, really entertaining. Great first 45, very open. Both teams going for it, as we'd hoped. And, Brighton probably just edging it.
They're on the scoreline as well. Evan Ferguson's 27th minute rebound strike separating the two teams at the moment. We are over the allotted time. Once again, Trippier loving the battle with Matoma. Once again, Trippier winning the ball. And that's it for the first half. Just the 1 goal in it, as scored by Evan Ferguson in the 27th minute. Alexander Isak had a couple of early chances for Newcastle, which went begging. Apart from that, Brighton good value for their lead at this moment in time. Further analysis to follow. Stay with us, you're listening to Premier League Live. Brighton against Newcastle United. David Connolly, Brighton winning the game. Ferguson with the goal. Probably should have had a couple more.
Yeah, I thought it was a brilliant first half. In terms of a game of football, so open, really exciting. We've had a lot of goals today, some great games. And although it's only 1-0, there's only 1 goal in it. It's been a really, really good first 45. And Brighton got their goal, really well crafted. But Newcastle had the opportunities as well. So yeah, it's been excellent.
Would you change anything, Newcastle, second half?
Well, as we've touched on a lot, how they're playing to me is a bit disjointed. That is the only issue for them. Now Brighton have the lead, they can't do anything else but go and press high and try and win it back. It's just at the start they were going to do that, but their defence was like 70 yards back. And there was a huge sort of area in the middle of the park for Brighton to play in. And one thing you can't give Brighton is space in the middle of the park. Now, you would know that, Tom, because you watched the West Ham game. West Ham didn't give them an inch in the middle of the park. Very tight, very compact. Defence was in one line. The midfielder about 10 yards in front of that. And there was nowhere for Brighton to go. Here, I mean, they could go wherever they want on the pitch once they bypass that initial press. And look, at the start, they got him behind a few times. Isak looked really, really sharp, etc. But as the sort of first half has gone on, Brighton have been much more in the ascendancy and had a lot more opportunities on the counter, and they could have had maybe one or two more.
David Connolly for the moment, thank you very much indeed. Elsewhere today in the Premier League, in fact I'll start with last night. West Ham winners against Luton Town by 2-1. Today Sheffield United 2, Everton 2, same scoreline. Brentford against Bournemouth 2-2, late equaliser there for Brentford for Mbeumo, who's been a brilliant start of this season. Tottenham Hotspur 5-2 winners at Burnley, inspired by James Maddison, and a hat-trick by Son Heung-min. Man City also had a hat-trick scorer. Have a guess who it was, anybody? Erling Haaland, that's it. 5-1 they beat Fulham. And in the game just before we came to air, it finished Chelsea 0, Nottingham Forest 1. You are listening to Talksport's coverage of Brighton and Hove Albion against Newcastle United from the Amex Stadium. I'm your host and commentator Tom Rennie. Alongside me is the former Republic of Ireland international striker David Connolly. This is Premier League Live. 1-0 to Brighton and Hove Albion at half-time. Evan Ferguson scoring his second goal of this Premier League season in the 27th minute. A rebound finish after a save from Nick Pope. We are just awaiting the two teams for the start of this second period. Going through my notifications, there are no changes, and so here are the 11s for Brighton. Bart Verbruggen is in goal, made his debut last week from the start against West Ham and continues in the number 1 role with Jason Steele on the bench. Pervis Estupiñán, Lewis Dunk, Jan-Paul Van Hecke and Joel Veltman complete the defensive lineup. In midfield it's Billy Gilmour and Pascal Gross, with Kaoru Mitoma, João Pedro and Solly March supporting Evan Ferguson, the goal scorer, up front. On the bench, Jason Steele, Tarek Lamptey, Igor Julio, Adam Webster, James Milner, Mahmoud Dahoud, Adam Lallana, Simon Adingra and Facundo Buonanotte. As for Newcastle, Nick Pope is in goal. Back 4 left to right: Matt Targett, Dan Burn, Fabian Schär, who's on the yellow card, and the captain Kieran Trippier. Sandro Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton, the midfield 3. Up front, Almiron on the right, Anthony Gordon on the left and Alexander Isak, the central striker. On the bench it's Martin Dubravka, Jamal Lascelles, Callum Wilson, Harvey Barnes, Lewis Hall, Tino Livramento, Jacob Murphy, Elliot Anderson and Sean Longstaff. And I can tell you Sean Longstaff has not been in the dressing room during the half-time break. He's been out on the field warming up, so one wonders if that change might be coming fairly quickly. Referee is Stuart Atwell, fourth official is Craig Pawson, and the VAR is Bond, Darren Bond. We are underway, we're underway for the start of the second half, with Brighton in their home strip of blue and white stripes, blue shorts and blue socks. They kick from left to right as we are looking in this second period. Newcastle the other way, right to left, with green shirts, white shorts and white socks. David Connolly alongside me, Newcastle on the ball, and they're trailing with the second half in front of us.
Yeah, and I guess just looking at Eddie Howe coming out, he looked a bit pensive, I guess. I wouldn't say his face was covered in anguish or anything, but certainly I think he knows he's big 45, because the 2 defeats, if it turns into 3, then suddenly people will say, oh, hold on a minute, they're on the slide. So he wants a little bit more in the second half, that's for sure.
Had a tough run of games, no doubt about it. Newcastle United after the international break. They've Brentford and Sheffield United and Burnley and West Ham, Palace. Games maybe they'll be big favourites in all the way through.
Well, they've got to, manage European football as well, haven't they? So in a tough group, which is great for them, don't get me wrong, but competing on multiple fronts is challenging. It's not something that they're used to either. And
they haven't got a nice dolly group like Man City as well. It's Paris Saint-Germain, Borussia Dortmund and Milan, inspired by a bunch of former Chelsea players. Well, Chelsea could have probably done with today. Pulisic and Loftus-Cheek in terrific form for Milan at the start of the Serie A season. Anyway, back here, all is with Newcastle United on the halfway line left-hand side. Joe Linton, slight miscontrol right in front of Roberto Di Serbi on the edge of his technical area. Has been able to keep possession for his team. Back towards the right-hand side, and Trippier into the feet of Tonali, trying to get away from the pressing and pressure of João Pedro and Billy Gilmour. He's done brilliantly well, Tonali. Looks like he was being fouled as well. Finds a release to target over the halfway line. Anthony Gordon back to Burn, then to his right is Fabian Schär. Newcastle starting the first half well, as they did the first half, or starting the second half well, and it's forward here to Isak, who had a couple of chances start of that first period. Out on the right hand side now, Almiron, Bruno Guimaraes, Tonali, onside is he, tries to find Isak, that's cleared away, looked offside on first viewing.
Well,
That's not been given, but that has pushed by Trippier on Mitoma.
Well, even if he was or wasn't offside, I mean, his pass into Isak is dreadful from Tonali. And, without picking on him, because I thought he was a little bit disappointing in the first 45, he hasn't come out and sort of sparked Newcastle into life in this second 45. Simple pass inside the box to pick out his striker, and he leaves it well short, easily cut out. He's just got to offer a lot more, Tonali.
Well, it looks like Brighton are already having deep conversation about potential changes here. James Milner is being briefed by the technical staff down there as Byrne once again has given a free kick away, pressing high on Ferguson. Ferguson hits the deck, and I suppose with Share booked, it has to be Byrne doing that now, and the referee might need to get on top of it.
Yeah, and if it is Milner coming on, I don't know whether Veltman is he struggling, because you'd imagine it'd be a like-for-like sort of change.
Yeah, we are hearing that Veltman is just struggling with something picked up in the first half, and looks like they're giving it a go for a bit, but it might not last too much longer as Solly March looks to take on Gordon and Target midway inside Newcastle territory. Now that's a challenge on him, and out for a throw on the right hand side to Joel Veltman. We'll see if there's anything particularly visible we can see. He could be jogging all right. He's going to take this throw in. Into March, back to Veltman. Miscontrolled and a wallop forward. I think he had just gone out of play, and that looked like a player who wants to come off to me.
Yeah, I just wonder why. I mean, they could have surely made the sub when they had the throw in, but they're obviously not ready yet.
Still just maybe trying to see it through for a bit as João Pedro has pushed high and won it well for Brighton. It's hit Ferguson though on the shin, ricocheted off him, and he's got a bit unlucky there. There's Evan Ferguson. But once again, it's Brighton's press that's effective, and Newcastle's that has struggled in this game. With 5 minutes gone in the second half already. 1-0 to Brighton Hove Albion. Ferguson with the first half goal. Tonali back to Target. Target long and up to Isak, who looks to turn away from Dunk. Dunk has won it brilliantly on the chest and finds Veltman with the first time pass long back to the goalkeeper. Trademark De Zerbi, Brighton. Verbrogen with a couple of drag backs and finds Van Hecker, who helps it on under pressure to Estupinian, and Brighton already charging towards the halfway. Tonali trying to keep pace and hold him up, which he does. He's back in field to Billy Gilmour. Gilmour was on the bench when Chelsea won the Champions League. He was also part of the Norwich squad that got relegated. So up and down career to this point for still a very young player.
And just looking at Brighton again when they went back to the goalkeeper, and it asks a lot of you as an opposition team as Brighton break through again.
First time football when it's Solly March on the right hand side, trying to help it onto Ferguson, but it felt like Ferguson was making more of a dummy run. March trying to find him, pass wasn't great through to Pope in goal for Newcastle.
Yeah, unlike Solly March, just too much on it, trying to pick out Evan Ferguson. But just coming back to it, it asks a lot of you as a team in terms of your athleticism. And looking at Newcastle, Tonali, Guimaraes, they don't want to be going to chase the ball over the pitch, and at times they might then look a little bit leggy. So not sure this has been the right decision by Eddie Howe to play this way.
Brighton's press has run the ball back yet again for them, but Cher's challenge on João Pedro prevents any damage from that. Tonali has then tried to pass the back towards Trippier. It's wildly off target, goes into touch for a throw in, which Mitoma wants to take quickly. He's around 20 yards away, 15 yards away from the attacking left corner flank.
Yeah, he's just too loose today, Tonali. He's just got to tighten up with his game, taking too long in possession, easily brushed off the ball, disappointing pass back to his teammate, and concedes possession again.
No doubt an excellent footballer, Sandro Tonali. 48 appearances for Milan last season, 2 goals scored already, a Newcastle scorer on debut. Struggling today though as Brighton win the ball again and press again and pass again, but again the final ball from Brighton, which was the story last week as well, not quite good enough.
No, I guess what you would say in Ferguson's defence, he's just sort of learning probably to play with João Pedro. Both young, aren't they? And what sort of run, what sort of ball do you want?
Pinson nearly caught here by Ferguson. Target then was by March, and March is in the area, and it's into João Pedro, who tried to wait for it to drop down to him. Bruno Guimaraes has robbed it. He's now being pressed by Solly March and João Pedro and Mitoma in the 6-yard box. All he can do is just kick it out, hope for the best, and it goes for a throw-in.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Target for a really poor pass, loses possession, and then as the ball comes into João Pedro, although they're offside, João Pedro's touch, if he kills this pass, this little sort of cut-back cross, if he kills it dead, he's got an easy finish. Instead, the touch pops up over his head. He's got to wait for it to drop, and that just allows Bruno Guimaraes to get back and take the ball off him.
Who was offside there? Solly March when it was slipped into him, was it?
Maybe.
That's strange. Must have been, otherwise I can't quite see where that infringement happened. Offside has been given, so it's not a throw to Brighton, it's a Newcastle free kick, who are just struggling to get out of their half at the moment. Here's Almiron running across his own penalty area, very nearly passing straight to Ferguson. He has just squeaked it through the target, and now they're over the halfway line, Newcastle. Well played. Gordon's ball, though, intercepted by Stupinian, just chopped in field and won it there. Mitoma tried to run against Trippier. Once again, Trippier gets a good challenge in. It's a throw to Brighton on the halfway. Just one or two Newcastle players under par today. I wonder if Eddie Howe is just thinking about what he can do. Harvey Barnes on the bench, Callum Wilson. They are players that have been used in every game to this point in that off the bench to change things scenario.
Well, again though, I mean, Anthony Gordon, he did okay there, but then the final pass he loses it. So, you know, they've all just got to tighten up a little bit.
There's Veltman, who seems all right for the moment, driving up over the halfway line for Brighton, and he finds a run from Pascal Gross down the right channel. First time ball in towards Evan Ferguson, well run by Cher and Joe Linton, and Trippier has passed straight to João Pedro. João Pedro could be in, tries a back heel, Trippier has run it back, then dives to ground, and it's a free kick for Newcastle. But that's at least 3 occasions now in the second half when Newcastle are getting caught in their own penalty area.
Goodness me, what are they doing here? I mean, Kieran Trippier is the skipper, he's just got to clear his lines. He's trying to play a pass to Tonali, you know, and they're playing the ball in their own 6-yard box. What is he doing? It's too short. João Pedro steals it. He then tries to be clever, a back heel to Evan Ferguson. He could have pulled the trigger as well. So, yeah, just too many unforced errors from Newcastle at the minute.
Another one here, target caught by the pressure of Solly March. It's hit target last, and that's a throw in on the right-hand side to Brighton.
They are all over the place at the minute, Newcastle. They've come out like a rabbit in headlights.
Very unusual for Newcastle, the one we've seen for the last 18 months at least. It's almost like Steve Bruce is back. No offence if you're listening, Steve. Didn't go well though, did it? What do you want from it? Veltman with the throw. On by March. Into Gross. Back to March. Is he onside? Yes, he is. Challenged by Bruno. Corner kick Brighton on the attacking right-hand side. Their 5th of the match. And you've got to feel like it's coming at the moment for Brighton. They are dominant in this match at this moment in time, and unlike last week, they're not trailing, they are winning.
Yeah, strong second half display so far.
Corner kick on the attacking right, in front of the Newcastle fans, who are trying to cajole and encourage their team, who have been terrible at the start of the second half. March's delivery, deep 1-2, chance for the man at the back post, Evan Ferguson. It's flicked off the top of his head, couldn't retrieve it, and that's out of play for a Newcastle United goal kick.
Yeah, and I guess I mentioned about how Eddie Howe looked at half-time, looked a bit worried, a bit penitent, anguished, I said, and you know, maybe he's had a bit of a foreboding of what was to come, because, you know, they started so slowly, and maybe he's seen enough. It looks like it's going to be a triple change.
Yeah, standing up on the edge of the technical area are Callum Wilson, Elliot Anderson and Sean Longstaff, who I mentioned was out warming up at half-time when the others were getting their instruction from Eddie Howe and the management team. Here's Tonali trying to turn away from Mitoma, finds a pass to Almiron, then back to Trippier, then into Bruno Guimaraes on the halfway line. Bruno with a spin and drive. Joe Linton picks it up away from João Pedro. He's then forward to ground, no foul is given, and Mitoma is running, and it could be 3-on-3 here for Brighton if they work it. Ferguson beat one, but he couldn't retain the ball with the challenge of target coming in under cover, and that's a free kick that goes the way of Newcastle. And it could be in a bit of trouble here, Evan Ferguson, just overstretched there, a little bit reckless.
Yeah, he got back, as you mentioned, on the cover really well, because fantastic footwork from Evan Ferguson just to deceive Dan Burn. But initially it's Joe Linton with the giveaway, and not for the first time a Newcastle player making an unforced error, putting their team in all sorts of problems.
Yeah, this is unfamiliar viewing for Newcastle fans, certainly unfamiliar listening, I'm sure, those listening around the world. Here are the changes. Coming off are Miguel Almiron, Joe Linton and Sandro Tonali. Coming on are Callum Wilson, Elliot Anderson and Sean Longstaff. So that will be a bit of a reshuffle. Maybe Isak going out wide if they keep their formation the same. There's 2 strikers are on now, which is becoming a bit en vogue again in English football. Both Sheffield United and Everton did it earlier.
Yeah, I mean, credit Eddie Howe, because he's seen obviously what I've been saying, or we've seen, in terms of Sandro Tonali, because it costs a lot of money, expensive signing, but if one of your players is not performing, you've got to make a brave call, right? And it just certainly was playing no way near the level that they need, Sandro Tonali.
Longstaff and Wilson off the bench in every game so far this season. Elliot Anderson is 24 of 27 games in the Premier League have come from the bench, so not exactly an unfamiliar position for him to be in, as Isak, who's now gone out left, tries a cross, that is blocked, and it's a corner kick to Newcastle on the attacking left-hand side. Already better. Yeah,
and what they've got now is they've got more of a goal threat in terms of Isak. Look, he's still on the pitch, so he's a goal threat, albeit wide, and Callum Wilson down through the middle.
Corner kick left-hand side for Newcastle United, away to the left of our viewing position. Burn is forward, being marked by Estupinian. Gordon on the edge. Trippier normally has good delivery here, but now that is a good ball, and the goalkeeper has flapped, and Dunk has missed it. Bruggen is saying there was a foul in there, I think, and the referee has agreed.
Well, maybe Bruno Guimaraes, just a little elbow in his back. I mean, they're an endangered species, as we know, goalkeepers, especially on corners.
Well, that is very, very generous for Bart Verbruggen, who is the new number one here at Brighton Hove Albion, with Robert Sanchez sold to Chelsea. Oh, it's good football from Brighton to get out of that tough situation there in their own penalty area of their own making, and a strong challenge from Wilson on Veltman, who's gone down here. Free kick given away by Wilson, Brighton's way, about 10 outside the penalty area for Brighton. I mean, look, it's great and all that, but just every time you watch it, I know Brighton do it well, so I suppose it's fine, but what was the benefit of that?
Well, the benefit is, I guess, if they bypass that, then they're out and they're attacking Newcastle's backline pretty quickly. And maybe Ansu Fati's looking on thinking, wow, I don't mind this. I wonder how many times he's seen Brighton in his lifetime. Not too many, I imagine.
Well, he had a couple of years out, injured, so I'm sure he's watched everyone multiple times. Good to see him back and fit, and good to see him in the Premier League as well. Not registered to play as yet, Ansu Fati, but he is here and has come up on our TV monitors. 60 minutes gone. Brighton Hove Albion 1, Newcastle United 0 on Premier League Live. Tom Money and David Connolly with you. And if you are just joining us, you're joining us at a very good moment in this game. Newcastle are going to need to start taking some risks to try and get back into it, and Brighton might feel a bit frustrated to only be winning by a goal to nil. That's right from Evan Ferguson in the 27th minute. Look at this run from Pascal Gross, the veteran, driving and driving and driving. He's over the halfway line. Stopped by Cher. If he wasn't, he could have been through on goal there. Pascal Gross.
Superb. He got a call up as well, 32, call up to the German national team.
He's been fantastic. Here is Isak at the other end though, trying to make Brighton pay. Takes on Van Hecker, drops the shoulder, takes it left, defender read it, pokes it away. Corner kick Newcastle.
Yeah, that little passage was reminiscent of the first 45 in terms of end to end. Pascal Gross at one end, bearing down Newcastle back line, turns over, and there's Isak, 1v1. You just think it maybe was a bit predictable that he was going down the line, set it up too early.
Good play by Longstaff there, releasing Isak, doing the Tonali job better than Tonali for Newcastle there. Corner kick left hand side. Delivery under the goalkeeper, who flaps again. This time isn't saved by a free kick, but he is by João Pedro and Billy Gilmour. And João Pedro's big wallop upfield. Gilmour still going, and he's won that one. And he's now pressing Target, who does get the pass back to the goalkeeper. Good play by Billy Gilmour. Turn the pace there as well from the holding midfielder.
Yeah, he looks happy, doesn't he, Gilmour, at the minute?
And if you were a footballer, I mean, David Connolly, obviously you were, how could you not be happy playing in this team? I mean, it looks tremendous fun. Exhausting, but tremendous fun. You might still get a game for Luton, the way it's gone. Make a call, mate. Here's Isak holding the ball up well, 2 on him. March is one of them with a really good sliding challenge. Isak thinks he's fouled. Referee says no, it's into Van Hecker. Gilmour gets away from Longstaff. Maybe he was fouled, but he keeps on going, Gilmour. Brilliant play from Billy Gilmour. Ball down the line to Evan Ferguson. Burns got to deal with it, and he does well. Longstaff then helps it on, helps it out. Caught by Roberto De Zerbi, who's getting a warm ovation from the home crowd here at the Amex Stadium. Brighton want to get on with it and try and get the second goal that would surely wrap this one up.
Yeah, I mean, that's ironic, isn't it? Because I know last season Eddie Howe's team were labelled the sort of time wasters, the team with the ball in play the lowest, and here he is on the sideline just telling Brighton to get on with it.
Still precarious, this Brighton lead. Trying to recover from that shock loss against West Ham United last weekend and condemn Newcastle to a third straight Premier League defeat. Lost 2 of 3 so far this season. It took 24 games last season for that third defeat to come. Also haven't kept a clean sheet now in 11 away games on the road. So much of that success in the first half of last season was built on strong defence, Newcastle. They are just leaking at the moment, and today struggling to create chances. Not a shot in the second half or in the first half, and none on target. Here's Gordon trying to put that right from a Newcastle perspective. Over on the far side now. Isak now on the left and Wilson through the centre. Formation has remained the same. Bruno Guimaraes left to Isak. In towards the edge of the penalty area. Elliot Anderson on the turn. Crowded out by 3 players. March with a lovely dribble and turn. And turn of pace as well. And he's already up towards the halfway line. And he's now beaten Isak again. And he's still going, March. And he's found João Pedro. Brilliant from Solly March. Pedro forward. He's passed towards Evan Ferguson. Terrible. And it's cleared away by Byrne.
Yeah, not only his passer, but I've
well, they've won it again, sorry. Here's Pascal Gross, edge of the area. Pedro makes a run. Solly March finds Ferguson. Corner of the area, right-hand side. It's breathless at the moment. A total lack of composure from Newcastle United when they win the ball.
Yeah, and just coming back to Brighton, I mean, it was a poor pass from João Pedro, but the run from Evan Ferguson was awful, because he almost went on top of his man, Dan Burn, when he just needed to pull away, just create a bit of space to receive the pass from João Pedro. There was nowhere for João Pedro to play that pass because Evan Ferguson ran too narrow. So there's still little bits to work on in his game.
Ball into Ferguson, controls and turns and shoots and scores! That is spectacular. That is magnificent. That is Evan Ferguson. And that is Brighton Hove Albion. 2 goals to the good. What a finish. What a player Brighton have on their hands here.
Fantastic. Just spoke about things to working on his game. Well, finishing certainly isn't one of them, because he can get tap-ins or he can score from outside the box from range. What is this, 25, 30 yards out? Picks the ball up. They back off him. If you go back to the first half, Tom, where Dan Burn was right up Ferguson, he's going to press it high. It was all over him. This time he comes off short into space. Dan Burn doesn't go with him. He just allows Ferguson to turn. He faces goal and then bends the ball beautifully into that far corner. He sets it out really wide. Let me tell you, it's got to be some finish to beat Nick Pope from 20 plus yards out, and it is fantastic.
Evan Ferguson with his second of this game, third of this Premier League season. They have given him time and space to control and turn and shoot, and, well, maybe some of you listening might not have heard of Evan Ferguson before. Relatively new to the Premier League. He was the top scoring teenager in the Premier League last season with 6 strikes, 10 in all competitions. It's now 5 in 7 in the Premier League, back end of last and start of this. Everyone's heard of him now, and I don't think defenders will back off that much again.
No, but I come back to our Newcastle. I touched on fatigue, how much it takes out of you, how they've played, and they've just been all over the place. I've never seen a sort of performance really from this Newcastle team that has been so disjointed, that has flipped and flopped between one way and the other.
Here's Callum Wilson at the other end, trying to make something from a loose ball forward. Good challenge on him, but here comes Anderson onto Isak. Isak into Anderson in the area, cuts it back. Anybody there? Gordon is! He's put it wide. Anthony Gordon stepping onto it. Could not have really been set up better for the strike. He's got time, but not the composure, not the finish.
Yeah, excellent note from Elliot Anderson. Gives it to Isak, gets around him for the overlap. Lovely little cutback cross, and it sort of fell perfectly really to Gordon. The only thing you'd say, okay, he is wide of the 6-yard box, but nonetheless, it's a dreadful contact. He misses the goal by about 5 yards, and he's only 10 yards out.
Well, Newcastle trailing by 2-0. I'm not sure they can afford to miss chances like that. A little discussion there of a challenge on Callum Wilson by Lewis Dunk there.
I tell you what, he completely took out Callum Wilson.
Well, there is no lengthy VAR check, but we are back underway again. So seen and dismissed by the video assistant referee, Darren Bond. Yellow card here from Stuart Atwell, who's seen something he didn't like there. I've got to confess, I missed the challenge here, which has upset the referee, so I'll get that double checked as to who has been yellow carded. Target, maybe? Not quite sure what for, if I'm honest.
I think it was preventing the quick free kick.
Right, thank you.
I believe.
It is a yellow card for Matt Target. And he joins Fabian Schär and Anthony Gordon in the referee's notebook. 3 yellow cards, no goals. Still waiting for that shot on target in this game as well from Newcastle United. Evan Ferguson.
Yeah, he's fantastic, Tom, because I often work on Irish bits and pieces and, spend a lot of time talking about Evan.
Oh, for Bruggen with a drag back under pressure from Anthony Gordon, and then Brighton play it on and on and on. Newcastle's press is totally beaten, and João Pedro's over the halfway line. He's just overrun it there, João Pedro. He's lacked quality at times, João Pedro, today, but it breaks to Gilmour, and here is Ferguson. Turns again. This time they don't let him get a shot away. On a hat-trick now, of course. Already Haaland and Son have scored hat-tricks today. There'll be some company to be in for him. I mean, the way they turn away from that situation, David Conley. That was the goalkeeper on his goal line doing a little drag. Yeah. And suddenly they're almost through.
Yeah, this, we can go back to how they started the game, Tom. And how you start a game, often dictates the game plan, and nothing changed. West Ham approached Brighton in a completely different manner, didn't they? Because they got spanked 4-0 last season. I was there. This time, turned around, completely different game plan. Newcastle went to go and attack and press high, commit players. That hasn't changed second half, and they've been completely picked off. Now they look leggy, unathletic, tired. They sort of lack ideas as well. Now Newcastle look pretty basic and poor.
Oh, Burns giving it away again to Pascal Gross. On to Solly March. Gross has gone again. On the sideline, it's into Gilmour and on to Veltman. Gilmour, Mitoma, lovely turn. Still going, Mitoma into Ferguson on the edge. Shot by Ferguson! And it's a hat-trick for Evan Ferguson. Shot deflects in, but that will be his goal, and that is a Premier League hat-trick for the young sensation from Ireland, Evan Ferguson. Newcastle United simply cannot stop him, and Ferguson joins Haaland and Son with Premier League hat-tricks today. That is simply outstanding from the young Irish international.
Well, he's in great company. Haaland and Son, and now Evan Ferguson. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, Mitoma picks it up in a little pocket, drives across the box diagonally, picks up Ferguson. Ferguson, a couple of players just back off him. I think Fabian Schär eventually sticks a leg out, and the ball looked to be curling into the far corner by Evan Ferguson with his left foot, but it takes a wicked deflection and comes off Fabian Schär's thigh and actually goes in at the near. But nonetheless, who cares? It's another goal for Evan Ferguson. It's a hat-trick to his name, and what company. He's up there. Erling Haaland today, Heung-Son Min, and obviously Evan Ferguson.
19 years of age, a Premier League hat-trick for Evan Ferguson. It's now 6 goals in 7 Premier League appearances. It's 4 for the season, 3 today, 1 previously. Looks like he's going to be an absolute superstar in this league. I look forward to seeing him play for Chelsea in 6 months' time. Here's Alexander Isak at the other end with a shot at goal, blocked by Van Hecke. And here they come again, Brighton Hove Albion. Well, what do you say about a performance like this from Brighton Hove Albion? Last week, struggled to beat Areola, struggled to create really clean-cut chances. Today, they have been clinical in front of goal. And brilliant with the ball at feet.
And this comes back to as well, Tom, without eulogising too much, De Zerbi's principles. When we do the prelim and we talk about what will they do, anything different? They got spanked last week, well, no, because that's his principles and ways of playing. They just refine it, improve it, make it better, find ways to overcome teams that sit deep. And you touched on, well, what if they sit deep? Well, today they didn't. They pressed high, and it just played into their hands.
We're live in the Republic of Ireland right now with our partners across that country. I'd love to hear from you on @Talksport Live, on whatever Twitter is called now. @Talksport Live. your thoughts on Evan Ferguson, your thoughts on the striker you've got on your hands here. You could have a number 9 for the Republic of Ireland for a decade or more, and I know we're eulogising here, and you never know what's going to happen, but right now, here and now, today, you've got a spectacular striker who could be playing up front for you in the next international break. At Talksport Live, get in touch and let us know your thoughts on him as Mitoma turns Fabian Schär there with a first-time heel tap. Challenged, though, by Fabian Schär, who recovered well. Isak down the line to Elliot Anderson. Veltman gets his body in the way, and it really is at Newcastle United's day. And you know, they've struggled today, but it's going to be 3 defeats in a row. I mean, look, tough games, absolutely, but I mentioned this in the intro earlier today. If you're going to be in the Champions League, they're all going to be tough games. You've got to do better than this.
Yeah, you do. And they are going to make a couple of changes now, but it's probably too many, too late for Newcastle.
Isak being withdrawn, as is Matt Targett, Jamal Lascelles, the club captain, coming on. So Byrne, I'm sure, will go out to full-back, and Harvey Barnes entering the fray as well in place of Isak and Targett going off. Barnes and Lascelles, the two that are on. And that's all 5 changes that they're able to make here. Newcastle, none so far for Brighton Hove Albion. Tells a story all of itself, really, as we get to 74 minutes played. The score, Brighton 3, Newcastle 0. That's Ferguson 3, Newcastle United 0, and he wants more here. If Estupiñán can slip him in, Gordon's done well to nibble back and win the ball for Newcastle United. He won't be used to this. 3 defeats in 4. And as I've mentioned, if you missed it earlier, if you heard it already, apologies if you're getting bored of it by now, but 24 games it took last year to lose 3 games.
Yeah. And a little stat popped up, that was Evan Ferguson's first career hat-trick. So, big moment for him, proud moment.
It's a nice flick by Callum Wilson. On to Longstaff. Into Harvey Barnes now, corner of the area, left-hand side, tries to spin one in the corner, it's away by Van Hecker. Recovered on the edge by Bruno, but not for long. And João Pedro looks to bring Brighton away, and he's blocked on his way through. Well, Billy Gilmour slipped over there, hopefully he's alright. Here's Longstaff trying to find Wilson, he's passed it straight to Estupiñán, who goes back to his goalkeeper, Verbruggen, who finds a pass out to the far side. Outstanding performance from Evan Ferguson today, as Brighton had to come down the right hand side. Dan Byrne is adjudged to have fouled Solly March there on the halfway, and that's another yellow card coming in here, as Newcastle are just losing their discipline at the moment. It's a 4th yellow of the game.
Well, he just looks like he's in trouble every time he comes over the halfway line, doesn't he, Dan Byrne? He wants to be aggressive, he wants to win the first ball up, and it's well intentioned, but the issue is, if he doesn't win it, they're in massive trouble, because then he's running back towards his own goal, and every other player is quicker than him. So he's in a foot race, and he's in deep, deep trouble.
A couple of changes here coming for Brighton Hove Albion. Tariq Lamptey, oft-injured player, going to come on for a few minutes here. Good to see him be fit for an entire season. João Pedro and Billy Gilmour being withdrawn. It's Mahmoud Dahoud as well coming on for them. A thought from you on João Pedro, who he's had good moments today, but I don't know,
fleeting.
I'm not sure how good he is.
Fleeting. I mean,
it's a tough team to be in.
Yeah, it is, and you know, when you are, he's very technical, so I think he does suit their way of playing. He just has to tighten up with his his little final passes, or his finish, or his run, and all those little decisions that you got to be really exact in this team, and they're just a little bit off today.
Further battles to come for João Pedro back in the Premier League after a brief sojourn here with Watford a couple of seasons ago. Good to see Tariq Lamptey as well, the Ghanaian international right back. He's been training again for a while. Knee injury when they beat West Ham back in March in 2023, so a long time since we've seen him out on the field, and really for Lamptey you just hope to see him get through a few weeks and months fit and returning to some of the form we saw before that time. Hello to Chris, who sent in a picture of Sir Alex Ferguson with Evan Ferguson's head supplanted on top with "It's Fergie time" on it. I love that. Keep them coming into at Talksport Live on whatever Elon is calling Twitter. Certainly feels like Fergie time.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's been in Fergie time for a while because he's been in great form and he's been terrific for Ireland. And they'll need him against France. Certainly Holland coming up.
Good challenge, Callum Wilson for Newcastle. Trying to find a way back into this game. Cross on the right from Longstaff is intercepted. That looks like a bad challenge over on that far side from Kieran Trippier. Estupiñán was forward. He'd gone down. I think it was a challenge though on Ferguson that Trippier has been called up for.
Well, he's holding the back of his sort of hamstring, his knee here, Kieran Trippier, so that was a bit concerning.
A little bit clumsy there from Kieran Trippier. Seeing a replay of an earlier challenge from Estupiñán on Bruno Guimaraes here, not quite sure why. Maybe Estupiñán is more injured than the incident suggested he was. Treatment for 3 or 4 players here. That does give me just a second to let our listeners know. Sadly not for those in Ireland, but maybe you'll be celebrating Evan Ferguson too much to care. But everyone else can listen to Liverpool Aston Villa tomorrow, UK time 1:30. We are on air, followed by Arsenal against Manchester United. Also available to our online partners, Crystal Palace against Wolverhampton Wanderers, before we get to that international break.
Well, talking of that international break, there'll be a few worried people back in Ireland, because looking at Evan Ferguson, that challenge on Kieran Trippier, they both come off in a bit of pain there, and Evan just wincing, bent over, bending his knee, pointing to it, looking over to the bench, signalling, this hurts. Fingers crossed he's all right.
Well, you won't be surprised to hear that he is about to be withdrawn, having scored a hat-trick. He's received the ball quite well there, but still hobbling a little bit. Back to Van Hekke, who then finds Verbruggen.
Well, we had this last season as well, where he started really well. What a turn, though.
Yeah, Ferguson turns away from Lascelles, who'd followed him a long way. And they've still got it with Estupiñán and Ferguson and Dahoud. I mean, at 3-0 up, must be nothing but torture to play them as Newcastle United right now. And there's a few Olays as well.
Yeah, just worryingly, though, just looking at Evan Ferguson, he is hobbling around. And we had this last season, and he missed a fair amount of game time and started well, got injured, missed a lot of game, then catching up. This season he started well, scoring goals, and you just hope that this isn't another injury.
10 minutes remaining in the game. A message from our friend Trevor Welsh, presenter on Talksport Ireland coverage, and he was mentioning you were having a discussion about Evan Ferguson pre-game about how highly you rated him.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You knew, didn't you? Clairvoyant Connolly, they call him.
Yeah.
Always good to hear from Trevor, and always good to hear from our Irish listeners as well. Again, at Talksport Live, the place to get in touch with your commentary team here. Solly March also being withdrawn for Brighton Hove Albion. Adam Lallana on for him. Pretty decent man to bring on for the final exchanges, and here's the ovation for the hat-trick scorer Evan Ferguson, who is running off. I'm sure he'll be alright after a bit of a rest. James Milner, who was earlier set to come on for Joel Veltman, though Veltman recovered from whatever was troubling him. He's on now.
Well, let's hope that referee doesn't let that ball out of his sight, when the final whistle blows, because they got a few of those hat-trick balls at home, and you do sort of treasure them, and it'll be a special moment for him and his family. His first career hat-trick. Really pleased for him.
Yeah, terrific achievement, terrific performance, and a terrific 3 points coming in for Brighton Hove Albion. Evan Ferguson, only the 4th player to score a Premier League hat-trick, age 18 or younger, joining Robbie Fowler, Chris Bart-Williams and Michael Owen in that group. In his 19th year, but still 18 for a little while longer. And as we mentioned, other hat-tricks today in the Premier League scored by Son Heung-min and Erling Haaland. Terrific company to be in, and terrific performance from Brighton Hove Albion, who are more than dominant in this match and more than worth the 3 points they are now sure to get, as we're in the 82nd minute and they're winning by 3-0. Evan Ferguson with all of them. Brighton on the ball here with Lewis Dunk all the way back to his goalkeeper Verbruggen. And if you thought Robert Sanchez liked to play with the ball at feet, this goalkeeper seems to relish it even more. There's Lamptey out on the far side on the halfway line, pass in towards Gross, and a return to Lamptey. who's got the pace, and he's got away from his man. He stayed on his feet too, and he could be in here, Lamptey. No one can catch him. Teammates or opponents. Cut back in the end towards Lallana was poor. Oh, and that's a really bad challenge from Tariq Lamptey. That's well worth a yellow card. He's quite rightly going to get. From the outstanding to the awful there from Tariq Lamptey.
Yeah, I mean, he plays a give and go here, and I'm thinking when he gets a return, there's no way he's going to get on the end of that. But what he does, gets there, Fabian Schär goes to ground, skins him, then he's in the box, as you touched on. No one can keep up with him, so he had to chop back. It's a poor pass to Lallana, and then he just compounds his mistake really by just slashing wildly at Guimaraes.
I tell you what, he's done him a favour there, Fabian Schär, already on a yellow card.
And he went down Fabian Schär as if he'd been hurt, and that sort of disguised it a little bit. Pretty soon after that, he was up and running around.
If Lamptey had gone to ground, then I think Fabian Schär might be sent off here, so it was pretty decent of Tariq Lamptey there. I'm not sure intentionally. I think he just saw the chance to score, but anyway, Scher's got lucky. 84 minutes gone, 3-0 Brighton. Newcastle barely got over the halfway line in the second half. No shots on target in the piece. 3 attempts in the second period, all off target. Just been lacking a lot of areas today, Newcastle United. How concerned will they be, do you think, the management team and supporters? 3 straight defeats.
Well, we'll just see this through as the ball goes over the top. I don't think Gordon's going to catch that.
No.
I said it at the start, Tom. He's lost 2 in a row. What will happen if he loses 3? Will it then be a crisis? That sort of misfortune with the unlucky defeat against Man City, then obviously being up against Liverpool, conceding too late, unlucky. You can covet sort of those by saying, well, the calibre of opposition. Here they can be sort of completely outclassed. And looking at Dan Ashworth, who's now the Newcastle director of football, who used to be the Brighton director of football. I mean, he's got a face like thunder, stood up in the stands, and then you all know, like any manager, you know, you're always under pressure.
5 minutes remaining in this terrific night for Brighton Hove Albion. Long ball towards Gordon here for Newcastle. Will bounce through to Bart Verbruggen. There's an absolutely no rush to get Brighton going again. Wilson with some nominal pressure. Verbruggen picks it up in the 6-yard box and rolls it to Van Hecker. Up square to Lewis Dunk. Back to Verbruggen again, all in black, away to our left. The new goalkeeper for Brighton and Hove Albion. Jason Steele had that run in the team when the now Chelsea number 1 Robert Sanchez fell out of favour. He was Anderlecht's player of the year 22-23 when he got into the first team around December time. 6'4" goalkeeper, another one that wants to be central midfield. It was a good challenge there by Longstaff on Mitoma. Trying their hearts out here, Newcastle, despite a few issues and errors, and that's another poor challenge, this time from a Brighton player. It was James Milner, another sub-yellow card. It was Gordon trying to drive through a gap there, and Milner, well, I'm not sure quite when he's done that, James Milner. The ball was long gone. It almost felt personal there.
Well, I think you're right. I think it might have been, you know, young upstart, just leaving a little bit on him.
Another change coming up here in a second, and almost well, I'll come back to it when Adingra does come on, but there's always a great tweet not too long ago. It was, Brighton always seem to bring on a world-class player I've never heard of every week. And maybe Adingra falls into that category, the Ivory Coast forward. But we'll save that for when he's come on. At the moment we've got a Newcastle free kick on the attacking right-hand side. Trippier delivers. Schär is there. Heads on target. And it's a save by the 6'4" Bart Verbruggen. And the first shot on target of the night for Newcastle.
Yeah, deep ball to the back post. I mean, comfortable take, wasn't it? Difficult header from that area, back in the 6-yard box. And here's Brighton. They bowl the ball out to the goalkeeper. They've had about 5 passes within a 10-yard box, and then they go again. First time
Brighton have been in anything other than total comfort for a good 80 minutes or so as Brighton go long here. Pope comes away out of his penalty area to volley into touch. And it's a throw into Brighton and Hove Albion midway inside Newcastle United territory. James Milner will find a ball back to Lewis Dunk. And Lewis Dunk will look for his goalkeeper for Bruggen again. Possession 55-45 in Brighton's favour, relatively low for Brighton Hove Albion, who are over the 500 pass mark now, but it certainly hasn't been a pass Newcastle to death kind of performance. It's been very cut and thrust from Brighton.
It has, yeah. Oh yes, there's method in it, make no mistake.
Now Pascal Gross being withdrawn here, became Brighton's leading Premier League goal scorer last week with that consolation against West Ham. One of the old guard still in this new young team.
Yes, that's right, an important component, played numerous positions and getting a really good ovation here, as we touched on as well earlier. Got a call up at 32, first time to the Germany national squad. That's great for him. He'll be going off in fine fettle.
And Adingra, someone that Brighton fans have been watching for a little while. He was out on loan at Union Saint-Gilloise, owned by one Tony Bloom.
Well, I believe Alexis McAllister's brother plays there as well.
He does, yeah. Adingra now at Brighton, signed from Nordsjælland. He was out on loan at USG. There's this flick on here from Byrne, looks for Wilson.
A bit predictable, right? It looks a little bit Route 1, devoid of ideas at the minute, Newcastle. That will hurt anyhow. If you're a coach, and you've done so well last season, going up against, the top tacticians in the league today, they've looked, like they've been outrun, outclassed. And you're culpable, you're the coach as well, right? You set them up in a particular way. So it will hurt anyhow.
But you've made the point a few times tonight that it doesn't feel like they really set up for Brighton today, Newcastle. We'll come back to that as Estupiñán is driving down the left wing here. Well found onto Mitoma in the area. Mitoma drops the shoulder. Chance for Adingra, who chipped it up to himself, then tried to volley it home. Lascelles got the block and it was cleared away as far as Estupiñán, who doesn't shoot. Here is Adingra over on the far side, away from Gordon, into Dahoud. Brighton happy to keep possession now, but all of a sudden Adingra is doing a bit of a Matt Letitia there in the penalty area.
But what I would say is Matt Letitia would do it in the right place, in the right area at the right time. There was no need for Adingra to flick that up. Actually, he could have just got a shot off on the ground, and the fact he flicked it up meant he lost the opportunity to do that. It was almost too elaborate, just not efficient.
Maybe he could have been a bit more professional. 90 minutes are up. We're going to have 7 for Newcastle to endure here. And we have had a raft of substitutions and a couple of goals as well, so seems about fair enough, but maybe last season this might have been 3 minutes and Newcastle could have been spared whatever is to come. It does mean unless something happens we might get out on time tonight. That'd make a nice change of pace. Lamptey into James Milner, midway inside Newcastle territory. Veltman done well to survive the 90 minutes here, into Milner via Van Hecke, and then Lewis Dunk, the Brighton captain, who will lead Brighton Hove Albion into Europe for the first time in their history after the international break, qualifying as they did last year for the Europa League. Brighton Hove Albion against Ajax in European football. Absolutely superb achievement. As offside goes up here against Estupiñán, who combined with Adingra. It's Marseille, Athens and Ajax for Brighton. Incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Brighton will relish that, make no mistake. Absolutely they will. I mean, they signed Joel Beckman from Ajax, who won the title over there, and so Ajax won't hold any fear for them.
Foul by Dahoud here on the halfway line. Anderson. And we saw what it's done for West Ham in recent times as well. Yes. Europa League semi-final, winning the Conference League. I mean, why not Brighton?
Exactly.
Why not?
And it's the next step in their progression, right?
I'm not sure how happy the other 3 are to get Brighton in that group, to be honest. It's going to be very tough for all of them to take on this team.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that European football helped in getting players like Ansu Fati. Yeah, if you weren't playing in Europe, it might be a different proposition. But as it is, look, big team competing near the top of the Premier League, and we're playing European football.
Chip over the top here to Callum Wilson, trying to get a consolation here for the Magpies. Brilliant from Wilson. Oh, that is superb from Callum Wilson. Newcastle United have their consolation goal. It was a hopeful spinner to Callum Wilson, who is a player who is simply going to chase everything down and create a chance whenever and wherever he can. And Callum Wilson scores his 2nd goal from the bench in the Premier League this season, and maybe makes the point to Eddie Howe I should be starting next time around.
Yeah, fantastic footwork. I mean, this is a move, a pass that they played so often in the first half to get in behind Brighton. This time it's Callum Wilson on the ball. It bounces awkwardly, but he chops it back, sort of uses his chest. It bounces in front of him, then he lifts it inside Van Hecker, and then he sort of plays it with the outside of his boot. Beautifully passed for Bruggen. I tell you, it's a great goal. Terrific technique. Really, really good.
18 Premier League goals last season for Callum Wilson in 31 games. Best scoring season of his Premier League career, and already on to having not really played a great deal of minutes to this point, which he's not going to be happy about. I tell you, Callum Wilson is not going to be satisfied with being the man who comes on to replace Alexander Isak in every game.
Well, he won't. However, neither striker was fit for the whole season, so you've got to be fit first, haven't you?
Yeah, that's true. Both fit at the moment, and Wilson's the one scoring goals. Isak missed a couple of sitters in the early minutes. Something to think about for Eddie Howe. 3-1 at the Amex Stadium. Still plenty of time here for Newcastle. Should they nick another one now? Lamptey with a challenge on Anderson. That surely should be a free kick Newcastle's way. It is. Lamptey on a yellow card. Just might need to be careful here. They made a lot of changes here, Brighton. They've lost all their shape and rhythm and all the control of the game they had because it was so comfortable for them. What about this now for Newcastle? Cat amongst the pigeons time. It's Trippier over the ball. It's left of centre, 40 yards from goal. Trippier's deep ball towards Lascelles, away by Estupinian. Recovered by Bruno, then back to Trippier again. A chance to reset for Newcastle. Everyone still forward. Deep delivery in. Where's that going to drop? Not towards Byrne. One back by Lascelles as Newcastle players gone down here. And there's an issue, I think, for maybe Cher. Lascelles has then done a foul and set our players down here.
Yeah, but nonetheless, it's still a yellow card.
Well, Dahoud's actually getting a yellow card here for something. I'm not quite sure what.
Well,
maybe something he said to the referee.
I would have thought that should have been a yellow for Lascelles.
Cher has stayed down here, a player who has, before last season, struggled long term with injury at Newcastle.
I just wonder whether he said there, Lascelles, come on son, and Cher to the ref, maybe. Maybe, would he have done?
Oh.
Was that bad, was it?
Well, they're either saying oh no or Sonny Bono. I don't know. We'll have to find out. I was saying Boo Earns. It's been a long game, isn't it? It's been a long life.
You didn't get my Happy Gilmore joke earlier, so maybe it's you, Tom. No, I said Gilmore. He was happy. He's happy, Gilmore. Oh,
No, I heard it.
Oh, you just
no,
didn't
I heard
acknowledge
it. I was just moving on swiftly. I've got a lot of balls in the area, mate. Trying to keep the show on the road. Here's Lallana, lovely turn away from Anderson for Brighton. Tariq Lamptey on the right in the offensive third here for the Seagulls. Dan Byrne has just given him a tag there. Got to be careful, Byrne. He's been yellow carded as well. Brighton aren't happy about that. De Zerbi certainly isn't. Bit of revenge there, maybe. Dahoud turns away from his man. Milner with the pass back to Lewis Dunk. And Dunk will look long to Lallana. I have no idea what Newcastle's formation has been this second half. I've got to say who's playing where and what they're aiming for. Been a real mess at times, Newcastle United.
The timer just offside. I tell you what, Lewis Dunk's passing is excellent. When you really watch him, he's so composed on the ball, and his short range passing, his long range passing, he breaks lines, plays it in between players, threads things. It's really, really good, his passing. Excellent.
He's no Harry Maguire though, is he, Gareth? Anyway, here's a ball towards Harvey Barnes over the halfway line. Not much impact is coming on for him. Bit of a struggle in his first few weeks at Newcastle, despite that late cherry on top of the icing against Aston Villa. Oh, Lamptey's nicked the ball here, and Newcastle are all at sea, and Tariq Lamptey's in to make it 4. Lamptey square! Oh, and it's a good touch by Trippier. Otherwise, that was Mitoma for 4.
Yeah.
Well, Newcastle have long since checked out of this game.
They have. It's another misplaced pass outside of the boot. Far too risky. Dreadful area to play it. And Bruno Guimaraes and Tariq Lamptey had 3 options in the box. I think it was probably the right one across the 6 yard, just slightly too far in front. Too much pace on it. It was unlucky.
Well, Trippier has clearly cleared that, but the referee has given a goal kick.
Yeah, crazy.
Maybe out of a bit of sympathy. Lallana is now, for some reason, kicking people. Here he is again, kicking someone else, and that'll be a yellow card for Lallana. It's a rather pathetic play from Adam Lallana.
He just needs to calm down. I mean, what's he doing?
Getting himself a yellow card. That's 4 yellow cards now for Brighton, all substitutes. Lamptey, Milner, Dahoud and Lallana.
Well, some suspicious betting patterns might be going on, you never know.
Oh dear. Allegedly. Just a joke, guys. Don't sue us. Please, we ain't got the money. Longstaff and Lallana still going at it here as we approach the final few seconds of this one. Trippier with a blast upfield. Cleared away by Dunk, wanting back to his goalkeeper in the end. Still we play on. We might have to run late here. Do you know what? We won't. That's the full-time whistle. It's victory for Brighton Hove Albion by 3 goals to 1. That's us for today. We'll catch you tomorrow. You've been listening to Premier League Live.